You are now entering a dangerous liberty zone where God-given natural rights are held sacred and exercised. This is your warning. Tyranny, fascism, and censorship will not be tolerated. Ideas will be exchanged freely. Rigorous debate and open discourse is encouraged. If you are weak and your beliefs are fragile, you should leave now. Prepare yourself. We are now live on the Dangerous Liberty Podcast.
What is happening, folks? Welcome to another episode of the Dangerous Liberty Podcast. Man, we got a lot going on in the world. The world's on fire. The world is on fire. We're getting ready to go to war with Iran. We have everything going on down in Mexico. And we keep having these crazy conspiracy theories keep popping up, things that I've addressed months ago. They just keep getting recycled over and over. As soon as somebody realizes that how stupid they are, they move to another one, and then they just come back to a previous one, or they come up with something else entirely. Today, I definitely want to spend a little bit of time addressing the exploding mic theory. That tends to be the most prevalent theory going on regarding some sort of explanation to the Charlie Kirk, the alternative explanation, the one that has very little. Not only does it have almost zero evidence to support it, we're going to go through it, but there's a ton of evidence that excludes the possibility, and we're going to go through those things. Now, I addressed the exploding mic theory like 4 months ago. You guys can go back and watch my YouTube video on that. Everything in that video still stands. It was a ridiculous theory then. It's a ridiculous theory now. Now, I don't care if you support the exploding mic theory, you can jump into the comments. We will address it. And like always, I definitely I encourage disagreement, but if you're going to just ad hominem attack, call names, like this isn't the show for you, and we're not going to put up with it. We're not going to play those games. But like I said, we got a lot going on. Tomorrow, folks, we got at 8 p.m. Eastern time, we're going to have the Patriot Misfit. He'll be coming on tomorrow at 8 p.m. We're going to be talking about all things MAGA, Candace, the Epstein files. We're going to talk about one of the big topics. We're going to talk about this attempt by the right, elements of the right, to black pill the right to not vote so that we can completely lose this country to the left. On Wednesday, all right, I'm going to have Timothy Alberino on. Now, Timothy is big into the Book of Enoch, among other things. We're going to be talking about UFOs, giants, and how that relates to the Bible, as well as the Book of Enoch. Now, I want to make this very clear. When I have people on that present these alternative theories or ideas or whatever else, it is just that. There's a lot of things that I've already went through Tim's content that I completely disagree with. I don't know, maybe he'll win me over. I'm going to go into it with a open mind on that. I tend to buy into what Wes Huff, I'm a big fan of Wes Huff. If you're not watching Wes Huff's content and you're a Christian, you should be watching that. He doesn't believe that the Book of Enoch should be part of the Bible. And I agree with that. And there's also some elements within the Book of Enoch, and people that have studied that tend to think that it is essentially, I won't necessarily say a forgery, but it is not time period correct, among other things. So there's some problems within the Book of Enoch. Again, we're going to have Tim on. We're going to discuss all those things. I'll challenge him. You can challenge him, or maybe he'll win us over and he's right. So that's what these things are when I have people on like this. Same thing with Ashton Forbes or anybody else, to present some ideas, to give you some things to think about, to determine for yourself whether or not some things are true. I do want to say hi to everybody over in the comments. I was planning on doing this at 4 o'clock. I couldn't quite get everything ready, so we did it at 4:30. We are going to do a watch party if Candace shows up. I do want to see what she has to say coming into this new, expose of Erika Kirk. I'm also interested to see what she has to say and respond to Graham Allen's video with Tracy Martin. That's one of the main things I'm most curious about. Now, I'll tell you, just the thought of having to sit through any of Candace's shows, and I'm not joking about this, is one of the most one of the things that I dread more than anything. But you guys make it worthwhile, and it's good that we're staying abreast of what she's saying, and that's really what that's all about. So you guys help me get through it, as you guys always do, and we'll have some fun with that and make fun of her and kind of point out the discrepancies as they take place. I will prioritize super chats like always. Folks, we appreciate you guys so much that support this channel. And for those of you that share our content and show up all the time and comment and do all the things, right? So make sure you like, subscribe. If you'd like to become a member and support us that way, down in the description below, you can go ahead and click that link. You can become a member. We appreciate that. And also make sure you're following us over on X. That's where a lot of these battles are fought in real time. And that's one of the things that we're going to be discussing today. So with the exploding mic theory. So right here, I have one of these Rode wireless mics. And right here, and I'll put up some pictures here in a second in a video. This is the magnet that goes on this to hold this in place. And you can see this magnet that goes with this device on the front of Charlie Kirk's shirt. The idea here is that he wasn't shot and that there's some sort of explosives put into this microphone, which would render the mic useless, by the way. There's not much space in here to begin with, so it would be an inoperable mic. I don't buy into this theory for a number of reasons, and we'll discuss that. I think it's actually one of the most easily disproven and most ridiculous theories out there when it comes to the conspiracy theories outside of the official narrative. There's a number of reasons for that, and we're going to go through that. So that is the mic that they're saying. Now here's the problem with some of this stuff, because they're always moving the goalpost on you. At first, it was just an explosive mic that, I don't know, killed Charlie Kirk. And then it went to, hey, this was like a shape charge, and or it actually projected something that hit him to the neck. And there's some issues with that, and we're going to go through that and talk about the physics involved with that. Now, being in special operations, folks, I've spent a lot of time using explosives, making large charges to small charges, many different types of explosives out there. Spent a lot of time doing it. I understand what an explosion looks like, even a miniature explosion. We used to make little door charges that were just blockbusters, right? So we'd actually be able to put those inside smaller door locks, padlocks, things like that. There's nothing that I see that goes on with Charlie Kirk that even comes close to that. The other thing, and this theory is one of John Bray's, and you can add Blake Bednar's. We had him on to try to explain what was going on with all this stuff. I don't think he did that very successfully. But one thing that I think should be very obvious to all of you and suspicious to all of you is, why haven't these guys, not a single person pushing this theory, not a single one of them has had an explosive expert on to talk about it, to talk about the plausibility of it. And, while I am not one, I don't put a lot of stock in AI, whether you're talking about Chat GPT or Grok or whatever else. There's lots of things that people try to use that for that it doesn't do a good job. Now, if you go to Grok or you go to Chat GPT, and especially Grok seems to be a little bit more aware of what's going on with this, and there's more information there on the exploding mic theory. It will outline the physics challenges that it can observe and calculate with the idea that this little device is what killed Charlie Kirk. But I'm going to pull up a video, and this was kind of one of my responses today on this. Let's see. And we're going to watch what actually took place with Charlie Kirk. And I got to be very careful. There's a whole bunch of other videos I'd like to share with you guys that'll just get yanked on YouTube for sure. But here's my X. Again, folks, if you're not following us on X, make sure you do that. Now, this person that I responded to, who I'm pretty sure was a sock bot, but regardless, I responded to, deleted this post because it was so ridiculous. This person was saying, hey, it couldn't have been a 30-06 because there was, and she was talking about the necklace and the dynamics of that necklace and everything else, and saying that, his neck would have to expand the size of a beach ball. That is not true. When we talk about what's going on with a high-powered rifle impact, like everything that I would expect to see, I see outside of a exit wound. Now, I've always told you right from the beginning that once I said, hey, you know what, I realized that there's no body armor, a lack of an exit wound on a 30-06 is atypical. Once you start looking into this, and this is something that I did, I spent a lot of time studying the Martin Luther King case study, the dynamics surrounding that, the fact that he was actually shot with a 30-06 as well from 65 yards away, which is half the distance. Then we get into Chuck Ritter. Then you get into some other or pathology studies, both military. I just posted one that Chris Leish posted, multiple case studies with 30-06 specifically. And you find out real quick that while a lack of an exit wound is atypical, it's far from impossible. And it happens a lot more than we think it does. So once you start studying the terminal ballistic effects of what's going on with 30-06, it is not this big, huge, impossibly powerful round that everyone wants to pretend it is. It's just not. And we all know, anybody that's been shooting a long time understands that weird things do happen with ballistics, not because they're inexplicable, but just because it's an extremely high speed, energetic event, that there's a lot of things going on with what's taking place from an internal, external, and terminal ballistic standpoint that you can't replicate any of these results almost ever, much less without actually having something like a cadaver exactly very similar to Charlie Kirk. And then you could try to replicate it. You're not going to hit the exact same angle. We still don't know anything about the ammunition, all those things. So there's lots of things that are going on from a dynamic standpoint that's hard to track. And one of the things that I realized today, I wouldn't say I just realized it today, but kind of covered it specifically within this discussion that I was having with this person. They were talking about, what they could see and what they couldn't see from the video evidence. And then I put into Grok, just to give us an idea, if you have a round that's moving 2,500 feet per second and you're filming the dynamics of that with a 30 frames per second, you're losing 98.4% of the information. You're losing almost all the information that you need to try to see what's taking place. You would need a camera that's filming something like 10,000 frames per second to be able to see what's going on and what's happening. We're losing so much information from both the dynamics and the physics that's taking place at Charlie, but also everything else that's going on as well. So anyways, on this, I responded to her. It's not swelling in the neck. His neck does swell, and that's captured on video. But you're trying to interpret an extremely high-speed, energetic event at 30 frames per second. You need 10,000 frames per second fidelity to see what actually happened. It's not swelling. It's rapid acceleration of the back of the neck where the necklace rests. These acceleration forces are impossible to see in a 30 frame per second image, and most people can't even imagine them. When dealing with velocities and forces involving firearms, you're missing 98% of what is actually happening in the 30 frame per second image. This video from Jesse on Fire shows clearly what happened. The energy transfer is from front to back, with a huge deformation of the neck right where the necklace rests, propelling the free hanging portion upward. This creates and explains the t-shirt movement and ultimately breaks the necklace. It happens in milliseconds, and the acceleration forces involved are profound. The direct front-to-back energy transfer, obvious in multiple video angles, also eliminates the possibility of a projectile originating from a wireless mic pack attached to the right side of the body. The lack of burn marks and damage to the thin t-shirt or obvious signs of an omnidirectional explosion rules out the mic exploding. I went on to say, further analysis of your post indicates that you have jumped from one conspiracy to the next and will not accept any evidence-based explanation. She was basically saying you guys are desperate to debunk all of these things, when in reality, when you see these people that are promoting these things, they've moved from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. And these are the same people that are pushing the palm guns, the tunnels. Like, they won't accept anything that we have evidence for, and they default to the implausible and the absurd every single time. And part of this is the psychology that we have of people that want to believe these conspiracy theories, is it's too simple. Like, it has to be this big grand thing. It can't be just this gay furry loving guy up on a roof with his grandfather's rifle. It has to be this conspiracy that involves, I don't know, the French Foreign Legion, Israel, people in maroon shirts, Fort Huachuca, and the rest of it. As a matter of fact, Stu Peters, there was a video that I posted the other day. He's now saying the reason that Erika Kirk was at Fort Huachuca because she was there helping test this weaponized wireless microphone. and it's absolutely ridiculous. So let's just take a look at this video. And I'm probably going to get crushed.
It blows backwards. Okay. Now we're
all right. And just to give you, this video was from Jesse on Fire, and it's months and months old. It's probably from 4 months ago. It was probably 2-3 weeks after, if it was that long. Might have been days after Charlie Kirk was actually killed.
Here's what we're looking at. He gets hit right here, and I freeze frame the first moment.
All right, so you see this deformation take place.
That it hits him, and you can see right there, it blows backwards. Okay. Now we're going to look at that again.
Now in this, as we slow this down or kind of move this back, at some point in here, you can actually, there we go. We see the necklace breaking. And I'm going to tell you exactly what I think that is and what's happening here in just a moment. But you can see it from here start flying through the air.
Okay.
All right. It whips around. And ultimately, I mean, this necklace is about 30 inches long or so. And it ends up draping down. It's actually hanging onto the collar of his shirt, and then it drapes down his left side. And there are plenty of images of that you can find.
Now we're going to look at that again, because I think that is the most definitive thing that we've seen in terms of the direction. To me, it seems very clear that the shot came from the front, because again, and his shirt blows backwards. And take a look again, and you see the way that his body reacts. Boom, right? It gets hit right there. And then there you go. The shiver goes up. To me, this appears to indicate that he was shot from the front here.
All right. So just so we're clear on this too, Jesse on Fire, as far as I understand, and if I'm misinterpreting or mischaracterizing what he currently believes, I will apologize right now. That's not my intention. As far as I understand, what he's now putting out is the fact that he believes that Charlie Kirk is still alive. So he's moved from that. I don't have a problem with that. Now, a lot of other people are going back to this exploding mic theory. We have a lot of people pushing this. Everybody from Baron Coleman, obviously, Blake Bednar's, John Bray was kind of, I don't know, he's kind of refined this entire theory. I recommend that you go listen to all those things and listen to it for yourself and figure out if you believe that any of that makes sense. But what I can tell you, folks, is the reason from a physics standpoint this doesn't make sense is because from the front, we see nothing happening with this device. Now, going back to either which of these theories that you're going to buy into, whether this is exploding or we're saying that this is some sort of shape charge that projects some sort of projectile toward Charlie Kirk's neck and hits him in the neck. So it's sitting over here somewhere and hits him over here. But yet we see all that energy transfer rearward. That doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense whatsoever. And on top of this, no matter what, this is being held on with this pretty weak magnet. All right. So just so we're clear, this is essentially what we have. We got a t-shirt, we got the device right there, and this is holding this into place. And long after the shot goes off, it is still in place. It is still holding. This is a very weak magnet. So if we had equal and opposite reaction, so if it was actually shooting something, whether it was a CO2, which still in my mind doesn't generate enough force to actually kill a person, or if we're talking about some sort of shape charge or anything else, there are no burn marks. There is no tearing of the shirt whatsoever. Like none of that from a physics standpoint can be explained just using basic Newtonian physics. So like I can't stress how ridiculous I find this entire theory. And again, there's a reason why they're bringing on experts in explosives to discuss this, because it's going to fall apart once they do that. And they got to keep the grift alive. Now, I would be remiss not to show you guys a response. And I want to respond to the response that I had in the.
Here's what we're looking at. He gets hit right here.
And it's this one right here. All right, Jordan Henshaw, who I have no idea who this is. Jordan, you're welcome to come on. We can talk about this if you'd like. It's rapid acceleration to the back of the neck where the necklace rests. He was quoting me. Really? If that were factually correct, the necklace would no longer be resting on the back of the neck 66 milliseconds into the event, as shown below. All right, it's already moved, and what I'm telling you is I think this is already rebounded, because what's happening with this is the neck is expanding so quickly. So we have the back of the necklace sitting back here. And what happens is the back of that necklace, we have the cross pendant hanging in front of us. The back of the necklace gets accelerated rearward quickly, just like you would see in Newton's cradle. That impact hits the spine moves backwards, it accelerates to the back of that. And now we have the front of that necklace with the cross pendant going upward, creating the anomaly that we see in the front of his shirt. His t-shirt goes all the way to his left ear. So this is a lot of force with a lot of acceleration. It goes upwards. Somewhere in there, I do think it breaks at the clasp. And then we end up seeing that probably near where the pendant is, just the weight of that pendant. It breaks. We have that entire piece of that necklace fly off. Because it's right at the clasp, I think that's actually holding on to the pendant itself. So that side of the necklace can't slide through, and this is all speculation, folks, going off that, but it's hanging on to something, and you can clearly see in multiple pictures that cross is at the very top of his neckline, with the rest of the free running end of the necklace actually hanging downward, like 2.5, 3 feet. I mean, it's a pretty long necklace. So that's what's going on with that. Now, going back to what he's saying, so that we give him a fair shot on this. He says further tests have done by Range Day Bro and Peak Prosperity prove that real cavitation breaks the necklace in the back of the neck, and the chain falls down and forward into the lap. On Charlie, however, the chain breaks the pendant and flies upwards and back. Blender simulations confirm this. The only known way to create that, what we see on Charlie Kirk, is to put 2 large bursts of air under the front of the shirt and the back of the shirt. One is CO2 pendant gun designed to cut the prosthetic on the front, succeeded, and the second is a conventional underclothing squib meant to produce the exit wound, failed. So I guess he, in this instance, is basically saying that, hey, this was all faked, this is not real, and that's what he's going with. Here's my problem with what he's proposing. Range Day Bro and Peak Prosperity did not have, like, there's no way to create the dynamics of what were taking place. And people that are material engineers that do material testing, I think, would understand this. We need to have somebody on to talk more about this. But reproducing exactly what happened would require a number of factors that we just don't know. We'd have to have a body that's similar to Charlie's. We'd have to have a very similar or the exact same entry and points of impact, impacting the different types of anatomy that we actually saw with Charlie Kirk. And on top of that, we need the exact pendant in the necklace, which we don't have. How are you going to reproduce something when all the key elements you don't have definitives on? We don't know what that necklace was made of. We don't know how the clasp was engineered. We don't know how heavy or the type of exact pendant that we have. Like, you have to recreate all aspects of this to get something even close to a similar result. And we don't have those things. So, I mean, that's where we're at with this. And I am curious to hear what some of you guys have to say. I see we got a couple of super chats already. We got Melinda and 1851 gifted 5 Paramount Tactical memberships. Thank you, Melinda. That's very good. Nice of you. And we got Jay Witt in the house. Grace and peace, praying toward the peanut butter and freedom toast. Thanks for tackling this topic, sir. You're welcome, buddy. So, again, this is, we're back to 4 months ago. That's what's crazy to me with all of this, is we're back to 4 months ago when this was first introduced, and it's still as ridiculous as ever, and it still doesn't make sense. And we haven't even gotten to the other elements of this. The other elements is the fact that we know that there was a supersonic event. We have a supersonic round that, without a doubt, crosses over people with cameras. We hear the boom, we hear the sonic crack, and then we hear a boom that originates toward where the Lossy Center actually was. And the idea that we're timing all this stuff up, and then we have the idea that we have this patsy on top of the roofs, and this is the other part of this. to pull this off and to go through all the trouble of creating a patsy, like why? This if you're going to kill someone with some sort of spy gadget, which is what we're talking about, some theoretical spy gadget that we've shoved some patent inside of this, and or some C4 or whatever other explosives you're going to put in this, and create a weaponized wireless microphone, which is what they're talking about. That will be easily proven that he wasn't shot. Like, why would they do that? And then to be able to cover that up, like so many people would have to be involved. At this point in time, you'd have to have everybody involved in state, local, and federal law enforcement. The forensics labs would have to be involved. Look, the defense attorneys are going to get access to all of this information, the ballistics reports. You'd have to fake so many other elements of this, never mind eyewitnesses, and never mind having the balls to try to explode a mic on somebody and sell it as a gunshot wound to people that are 8 to 10 feet away in front of a crowd of 3,000 people, where every single one of those people out there have a cell phone and have a video of what's taking place. Like, doesn't make sense. It's one of the most ridiculous theories out there. I'm kidding. Candy. I don't know what. This one just caught my attention. Rougaroo says, I'm getting Candy some paint to huff and super glue for her birthday. She would probably be nicer to listen to. I couldn't agree more. We got Flame in the house. Flame, I always appreciate your commentary on X. If you guys aren't following Flame, make sure you guys go follow him. Gary, so do you follow the official narrative, lone shooter, no helper? Comments on the false flags, Patsy in the crowd. The guy Cash first claimed was the shooter, the guy chanting USA. So, let me think about this question. Do I buy into the lone shooter? I don't think I've ever bought into the lone shooter. I will say that we get into speculation on this, but what I've said from literally day one was I think that we need to look at a grander conspiracy, specifically on the left. Look, we know he was in multiple different chat rooms and he was talking to multiple different people. I just did a interview with Chase Hughes to talk about how easy it is to radicalize people online. So I'm open to anything that we find in the investigation. And maybe we won't ever find that information out. I have some theories of why that information may be withheld without even necessarily saying that, hey, the Cash Patel FBI is withholding this information for nefarious reasons and or they're in on it. So there's a lot going on there. And I agree with you between Hunter Kozak asking the questions that he was asking, and then we got George whatever out in the crowd saying that he shot him, he did it. There's some questions to be answered that I don't have answers to those. With that being said, I feel really, really confident based on actually going there, looking at what's taking place, talking to over a dozen eyewitnesses at this point, having multiple ones on, like, what we see in the charging documents as it relates to Tyler Robinson matches up. As a matter of fact, it's the only thing that currently makes sense. And if there's some more information to come out tomorrow, I will gladly change what I believe took place. But I mean, based on what we have and what we have in the charging documents and all the experts that I've talked to, we have Tyler Robinson. I think Tyler Robinson shot him. I think it was with a 30-06. We still have ballistic reports to go through. And if something crazy comes out in those ballistic reports that would change my mind on this, I'm happy to change it. And that's what I've tried to do from the very beginning, is be objective and open to wherever the evidence and the facts lead us. I have been very careful to not buy into something one way or the other, which is why I had multiple people come on my show that believe completely opposite of what I did. We've had people that believe that he was shot from the side, that there were other shooters involved. We have Blake Bednar's and other folks that believe that the exploding microphone, and none of it makes sense. And they can provide zero evidence to support any of those. And that's what has to guide us with all this stuff. Look, folks, I agree with you that we shouldn't trust the government on its face. But I also think that we sure as hell shouldn't trust YouTubers and social media personalities on the face of anything they present. And then the idea that we're just going to accept what they say without any sort of evidence, especially extremely biased people like Candace Owens and the rest of her ilk. Like, they're all biased. They all look. One thing that you can go back with Candace Owens on, she hates the French, she hates Israel. All right. And somehow that's exactly who perpetrated all this stuff. And she's extremely biased toward the U.S. military. She thinks the U.S. which is really strange to me. And it just shows how ignorant she is. So the reason that I currently believe in some conspiracy theories is because there's evidence to support those. Like, there's some pretty solid evidence to support those conspiracy theories. But it comes down to whoever is presenting whatever narrative they're presenting, and it has the most amount of evidence to support that. That should be common sense. That's the logical, reasonable way to go about this. And that's how you prevent yourself from being tricked. We don't just have a default rejection of a government narrative, especially when we have it's very different, I believe, when we have the Trump administration that is allied with Charlie Kirk. Like, there's nothing that you could do to convince me that, again, outside of presenting real evidence, that you could just blanket, convince me that the Trump administration would assassinate Charlie Kirk or be involved in that or allow that. No matter what is going on, TPUSA is going to support those candidates on the right. They may have TPUSA and Charlie were very pragmatic, and they may have some ideological differences here and there. And they may disagree with some of the things that the Trump administration is doing here and there. But at the end of the day, they understand the same thing that I do, that there is a vast difference over the Trump administration, MAGA, the conservative right, compared to the left. And the problem that we have right now is that we have all of these people that are supposedly on the right, whether it's Nick Fuentes, Candace Owens, and many others, that are trying to convince you shouldn't vote in midterms. We just need to burn this all down. Folks, that's not how it works. What's going to happen is the left is going to take over in the midterms. They're going to impeach Donald Trump, which I think Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes and many others would love. But what they don't realize is that gives them an opportunity to embed more people from the left into different elements of government and to be able to execute corruption at a much larger scale. I mean, that's what happened during the Biden administration. So we're not only going to lose a lot of ground that we gained, but on top of that, the problem that we're trying to fix on the conservative right becomes even larger, and it's going to take longer and more effort to fix later on down the road, even if we win the White House in 2028, the House and the Senate. It doesn't matter. Like, that's what's going on, is we have these people that have this nihilistic view and are trying to blackpill you, like, just give up. And we can't have that, because it's not going to fix the problem for sure. Yeah, look, I mean, what they're doing to Erika is shocking to me. And if you'd have told me 6 months ago that this could possibly take place and that people would buy into this hatred toward Erika and would buy into this gossip girl nonsense of the image of Erika that Candace and her followers has presented, I would say there's no way. The American people would never fall for that. They're not that stupid. But unfortunately, I would be wrong. And this is our reality. And this is what happens when you let problems metastasize. It's just a fact. It's the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. Couldn't agree more. I think you've lost it when you gave up on body armor. There's no way he wasn't. No, he wasn't wearing body armor. All right, look, I've talked to enough people. I've got to see enough videos and other information that's come out. I just don't think he was wearing body armor. Look, there is 100 different plausible explanations of why we have a 30-06 that didn't exit. And we have litigated that 1,000 times on this channel. I have a post up on X you can go check out. It's getting warmer now. We'll do some additional ballistic testing, even though I kind of feel at this point it's kind of pointless because we don't know what the round was. And all we're doing is playing the speculation game. And I can show you without a doubt. I know I can go out there and show you, hey, we can shoot a 30-06 round and it not penetrate it nearly as much as people think. And look, we've had people that are hunters that have sent me all kinds of different photos and pictures of, 30-06 round getting lodged on the outside of the skin. Weird things happen with ballistics. And there's 1,000 different variables at play there. The projectile, the type of ammunition, the condition of it. Look, they make varmint rounds for 30-06 to shoot rabbits. And the idea that we're going to get the same result no matter what type of 30-06 round is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Was Mitch Snow at Fort Huachuca and was Erika before the shooting? Oh, Mitch Snow was. I have a whole montage of saying that I've always thought from the very beginning that Mitch Snow was at Fort Huachuca. I don't think that Erika Kirk was there. I think that's ridiculous. I have other information that I know Erika Kirk wasn't there. I know that Brian Harpole wasn't there. I know that Congressman Amadei wasn't there. That's been proven. Cabot Phillips has provided an alibi that is accepted by some and not others. And by the way, Brian Harpole has provided an alibi. If you don't want to accept it, that's fine. Forget about all of that. The idea that, again, anyone in the military will tell you, there's not going to be a bunch of lieutenant colonels sitting around planning or discussing the assassination, conventional forces especially, at Fort Huachuca, which is, look, they are down there on the border doing border patrol operations. You couldn't get a more conventional forces than what we have there. And the idea that they are planning, discussing, or briefing anything related to some sort of clandestine operation and the execution and or assassination of a U.S. citizen on U.S. soil is just preposterous. I don't know what else to say. And then the idea that some guy like Mitch Snow would just stumble in on that taking place. Like, if you're going to believe that, you'll believe anything. Have you ever considered working with Terry Shepard, Larry Zenoff, and Hollywood Weapons Crew to try and recreate this shot? No, I've never considered working with any of those. We have discussed possibly trying to recreate the shot. Again, we need more information. And anytime that you're dealing with ballistics, man, it's just like you have to have everything the exact same way. Look, the results of that could be 1 in a million, but it doesn't mean it's impossible to take place. And I don't think it's 1 in a million, by the way. I'm just letting you know, like, you can recreate that exact shot with the exact same ammo 50 times and get 50 different results every single time. So, like, if you don't understand how hard that is to replicate, then you just don't understand ballistics. And that's a fact. Hi, Gary. Did you get my email on RNC trafficking? Probably, Jen. I've been busy on a couple things. I did see your message, your DM on X. I just haven't had a chance to respond to it. I've been super busy and been juggling a lot of stuff going on there. So that's where we're at with that. Let's just talk briefly. It's getting, I don't know. Candace may already be playing already. Let's talk briefly about what's going on with Mexico. Look, I had a video earlier that I was going to pull up. Mexico is a result of allowing problems to exist. And the other thing that people need to understand with Mexico, we have President Scheinbaum. The reason these politicians haven't addressed what's going on with the cartels is because they need the cartels to get them elected. And that is one of the secrets in, the things that people don't want to talk about is all of these politicians in Mexico are being funded by different cartels and have a lot of interest, not only just self-preservation interest as well, but also monetary interest of why they've allowed these people to persist. And they'd never wanted to address it head on. And now it's become such an issue that they're going to have to, and or the United States is going to have to intercede and take care of this problem. But, this goes back to the broken windows policy that we have that Rudy Giuliani used to talk about all the time. Like, you can't let these problems persist, and little problems become big problems. And the next thing you know, you have a problem that is, better equipped, better trained, and more capable than at least your law enforcement capabilities there in Mexico. And now they're deploying the military. So there's a lot going on there. It's pretty wild. And I am concerned about the Americans. I spent, probably 2.5 months in Mexico City a few years back. Well, this is 2019. They're at the embassy training folks on situational awareness. And man, there's a lot of U.S. citizens just from the government side at embassies and consulates all over Mexico. And of course, we have all the tourists, expats, and everything else, and they're in a lot of danger. They're in extreme danger. And so hopefully we get all of them back safely. And I'll tell you, Scheinbaum is an idiot if she doesn't take Trump up on his offer to get down there and take care of business down there. So a lot of stuff going on. Tomorrow, the judge is to make a decision on Tyler's defense team to dismiss the prosecution team. Not sure what happens if he does. I don't think that's going to happen. When we had Andrea Burkhart on, she didn't feel like that was even a possibility. She said that the judge made it pretty clear that he wasn't buying into that entire argument. Well, let me see what time that's playing tomorrow. We may play that or at least cover that tomorrow. We'll see how that goes. What I'm going to do now is we're going to pull up and see if the Queen of Lies, the DEI queen herself, is already going live. Let's see what's going on here. If you guys have some additional questions or comments regarding the exploding mic or any of the other stuff we talked about, let me know. And if you believe it, let me know why that is. Let's see what we got. Nope. I don't know if she's even announced anything on X. Let me go over here real quick. All right, so she's not coming back till Wednesday. Well, there's that. The judge won't dismiss the defense as just being a pain because it is a DP case, death penalty case. It's what they're supposed to do. Yeah. She's not posting because the cartels can't pay her right now. She's probably hoping the wire transfers will be in. Yeah. There are no valid points to the exploding mic theory. It's magic theory, in my humble opinion, anyway. I agree. Like, we would see, it would be very, very clear what's taking place there. And we don't see that. Candace is so dumb. Why do people listen to her? I mean, supposedly she's attractive. She's no Beyonce. She's literally dumb as a rock. How about wait for the trial? You don't know what you don't know. Yeah, and that's the problem is there's lots of money to be made between now and the trial. That's what's going on. And what I mean by that is we have information gaps that a lot of these grifters can continue to fill and get clicks off of. And look, everybody's interested in this, and it's become a global story, and people have turned this into something that it's not. It's as simple as that. And people want to believe it, and people want to believe this much more complicated, convoluted idea that that it was some grand conspiracy to assassinate Charlie Kirk. Look, there was a conspiracy to assassinate Charlie Kirk. All of the evidence says that Tyler Robinson did it. We have the Discord chat. You know what? I'm gonna run through something real quick because if you guys haven't seen it, Jesus did the best job breaking this down. And look, we've all talked about this. But Jesus, the body language expert, did the best job kind of summarizing everything that we see there. Let me pull up his, you know what? I bet he has it posted. Oh, since I'm sitting here doing this exact same thing, if there's anybody out there that's interested in discussing becoming or doing some producer work for me, let me know. All right. I am going to share this real quick so that you guys can see this. We're going to big screen this because Jesus Enrique Rojas did the best job that I've seen so far summarizing all this. And I think this is worth going over. And if you haven't seen this, please go see it. He says, okay, since I've been blocking Candace Owen retard fans left and right in regards to the Charlie Kirk assassination, I thought I should just write the be-all, end-all, balls-to-the-wall proof that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk. If you've been dealing with the horde yourself, make sure to bookmark this so you have proper weapon to teabag them whenever they want to infest your replies, pushing Candace's hallucinations. And the way that I'm going to do this is apply a specific critical thinking tool that would nukeify about 90% of the internet's absolute dumbest screaming matches overnight. But nobody teaches this. Not in high school, where they're too busy making you memorize the year some king died of gout. Not in college, and certainly not even in law school, where you'd think not being a total moron would be a core credit. Here's what this is about. You take an idea, you build a shining golden best case scenario for it, then you flip that bitch into its exact polar opposite and try to build a case for that. It's that simple. If you can't absolutely demolish the opposite version, your original idea is a wet paper bag, period. No exceptions. This isn't a check your vibes moment. This isn't some, well, everyone's truth is valid hippie drum circle. This is a structural integrity test. It's like stress testing a bridge by driving a fleet of monster trucks across it while simultaneously trying to level it with C4. I don't know if that's the best analogy, but I know where he's going with it. If the bridge is still standing, you can cross it. If it falls, you're standing on a fever dream held together by spit, confirmation bias, and hypnotic ramblings of a YouTuber who at any moment could be broadcasting from a padded room. If you want to get fancy, the tuxedo-wearing names for these tools are falsifiability, reduction ad absurdum, and strong inference. But I know that nobody gives a shit about Latin. The I have a job and a mortgage, cut to the chase, bro version is this. To prove your idea is real, you have to prove it and disprove the mirrored, bizarro version of it. If either leg snaps, the whole thing face plants, even if the first leg looked like it was carved out of granite. Most people only ever want to press forward. Most people only ever do the forward pass. They build a case that feels like a warm hug. It confirms everything they already hate, and they stop. Build the mirror test. The bizarro test is where intellectual honesty actually lives. It's the dark basement where most conspiracy theories go to get strangled. So let's apply it in real world nightmare, a big one. September 10, 2025, 12:23 p.m. Charlie Kirk is sitting in the amphitheater at the Utah Valley University. There are 3,000 people watching. He's doing the American Comeback Tour, which is basically his high wire act of debating sleep-deprived college kids about the most radioactive topics on the planet. I'm going to skip a little bit here. Then a single bullet hits him in the neck, fired from approximately 142 yards away from the rooftop of the Lossy Center. Kirk is taken to the hospital. He's pronounced dead. He was 31 years old, a father of two, and one of the most influential conservative voices in America. The country loses its mind about 9 different directions simultaneously. 33 hours later, a 22-year-old electrical apprentice from Washington, Utah, named Tyler James Robinson surrenders to the Washington County Sheriff's Office. His parents drove him there. He's been charged with aggravated murder. Let's go down here to the Ford case. All right, so he's talking about the evidence here, the confession. This is where it starts, and honestly, this is where it could also end. Tyler Robinson did not confess once. He confessed through 5 separate independent channels to 5 different audiences using 5 different communication methods. Channel 1, the note underneath the keyboard. Before the shooting happened, Robinson left a handwritten note under his computer keyboard at the apartment he shared with his roommate and romantic partner, Lance Twiggs. The note read, "I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it." After the shooting, Robinson texted Twiggs and told him to look under the keyboard. Twiggs found it. Twiggs photographed it. Twiggs later gave it to police. Read that again. The note was written before the shooting. This isn't a confession after the fact. This is a declaration of intent in his own handwriting, placed in a location only his roommate would find. Referenced in text messages sent to Robinson's phone. Channel 2, the text message to Twiggs. After the shooting, Robinson and Twiggs exchanged a long series of text messages. Robinson told Twiggs he was stuck in Orem and needed to retrieve his rifle from a drop point. When Twiggs asked, "You weren't the one who did it, right?" Robinson replied, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry." When asked why, Robinson said, "I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out." He told Twiggs he'd been planning it for over a week. He referenced the engraved bullets, saying the effing messages are mostly a big meme. He joked that if Notices Bulge UWU shows up on Fox News, he might have a stroke. He told Twiggs to delete the conversation, to refuse media interviews, and to ask for a lawyer if police came asking questions. Twiggs, who was described by authorities as aghast and shocked, turned over every message voluntarily and was placed under FBI protection until he was spotted in Texas a few days ago. Channel 3, the Discord group. Robinson was part of a small Discord group with about 30 friends. After the shooting, members of the group started posting about Kirk's death. Some noticed that FBI surveillance photos looked like Robinson. Robinson joked it was his doppelganger. Goes on to confirm all that information. Channel 4, his family. Robinson's mother recognized her son. Later on, Robinson basically confesses to his family. He at least implies that he was the shooter. Channel 5, the family friend. Robinson's parents called a retired deputy sheriff who was a family friend. Some sources describe this person as a youth pastor who was also a U.S. Marshal task force officer. Point being, he confessed to him as well. The physical evidence. The university police officer heard the shot, identified his rifle by its sound, and immediately started looking for sniper positions. He found a rooftop area about 160 yards from where Kirk was seated. In the gravel on the roof, he found impressions consistent with a person lying in the prone position. There's pictures of that. We know that all of that took place. The rifle, the towel, the casings, all of it was sent to the FBI lab at Quantico. Robinson's DNA was found on the trigger, other parts of the rifle body, on the fired cartridge casing, on 2 of the 3 unfired cartridges, and the towel. His father confirmed that the gun matched the one he had given Robinson as a gift. The surveillance timeline. Investigators tracked Robinson's movement through the campus. Security camera work. He arrived at 11:51. He was seen all throughout campus. We know that they actually have not only video of him on the roof, but actually moving in position right when that shot was going to be taken, and of course moving out of position and trying to exit the location, ultimately jumping off the roof right afterwards. His father noticed the rifle match. They confronted him. He eventually admitted it. But there's one more detail that rarely gets mentioned. Hours after the shooting, the same evening, Robinson went back to the campus. He made contact with a police officer who was guarding the perimeter of the lockdown zone. Robinson reportedly told the officer he needed to get something from near a garage. The officer didn't find this suspicious at the time because hundreds of people had fled during the panic and many left belongings behind. But the officer did a routine check on Robinson's license plate. When investigators later identified Robinson as a suspect, they found that plate check in the system, placing him at the scene hours after the murder near the exact spot where the rifle was hidden. Robinson had texted Twiggs about his timeline. You guys can read through that. The motive: prosecutors allege Robinson targeted Kirk because of his political expression. He goes on to talk about all that. I love this part, and this is a really important part for you guys to read and to check out. And we're going to go through it real quick. Now we flip it. We construct the opposite claim and try to make it survive. Idea A: Tyler Robinson did not kill Charlie Kirk. For this to be true, you need all of the following to be simultaneously true. The confessions are fabricated. We go through all the different confessions. Discord conducted its own internal investigation and confirmed the account belonged to Robinson while finding no evidence the attack was planned on their platform. The DNA is coincidental. Yes, it was his grandfather's rifle, so the DNA had being somewhere on the gun isn't inherently shocking, but his DNA was on the fired casing. That's the round that was chambered, fired through an explosive discharge. Number 3, the surveillance video shows something else. Video captured the suspect entering the campus, walking with a limp, climbing to the roof. And by the way, these are all the things that every single person that is protecting Tyler Robinson and wants to convince you that an exploding mic or flying drones or people with palm guns, they go through this and try to attack these points, and they have no evidence of it. Like you got to give us something, an alternative that actually is supported by evidence, while you reject this mountain of other evidence that supports the fact that Tyler Robinson was indeed the shooter. Number 4, the return to the crime scene has an innocent explanation. Robinson was caught on a license plate check near the crime scene perimeter hours after the shooting. In the area where the rifle was hidden, his own text messages described going back to retrieve the weapon. For this to be innocent, Robinson happened to be near the exact spot where the murder weapon was hidden on the same evening of the murder for a completely unrelated reason. Defies logic. The physical evidence at his home is unrelated. Engraving tools matching the description on the cartridge casings and recently purchased shooting targets were found, and shot targets, by the way. So he's been out shooting this rifle, making sure that it was zeroed properly and that it was functioning correctly. For this to be irrelevant, someone would have to have planted engraving tools and targets in his home that happen to match the methods and materials used in the assassination. Number 6, every behavioral indicator is meaningless. Robinson fled the scene, changed his clothes, hid the murder weapon, attempted to retrieve it, instructed his roommate to delete evidence, refused to talk to police, considered suicide, and turned himself in through a retired deputy sheriff after his parents confronted him. For all of this to be consistent with innocence, you need to explain why an innocent man destroys evidence, coaches witnesses to obstruct justice, contemplates suicide over something he didn't do, and surrenders to police through legal intermediaries. So that's what you're dealing with. Where the inverse has any oxygen at all. This is all right. So the missing surrender video, a public records request revealed that the Washington County Sheriff's Office no longer has surveillance footage of Robinson arriving to turn himself in. The 30-day retention period lapsed and the video was never sent to any other agency. Defense attorney calls this very concerning. Is it sloppy? Yes. Does it prove Robinson didn't do it? No. And by the way, I don't even understand the relevance of that. Not really. I mean, we know he turned himself in. We know he went there with, at a minimum, with the family friend. Explain to me why him pulling into the parking lot, him going into the police station, like, what do you think you're going to get out of that? The conspiracy ecosystem, online theories about second shooters, professional hits, Mossad involvement, false flags, hand signals in the crowd, and coordinated plots have exploded. YouTubers attend pretrial hearings. Robinson's own defense attorney asked investigators in the court whether they had looked into alternative theories. Roger Stone said it looked like a professional hit. Russian state media amplified theories about suspicious gestures. Anti-Semitic accounts push narratives about Israel's involvement. Candace, at a bare minimum, suggests that Kirk was killed because he was about to abandon the pro-Israel cause. The only problem, none of these theories have produced a single piece of verifiable counter evidence. And that's what it comes down to, ultimately, with all of this. They're asking us to participate in insanity, and it just doesn't make sense for any of us to do that. The evil Candace posted a promo to her Erika series on X. Yeah, I just saw that. I thought she was coming back today. Apparently not. Candy isn't pretending to want to solve the case now. She's outed herself as the jilted ex. She was not a part of his life, death, or legacy. TPUSA is Erika's, as was Charlie's heart. It's revenge. Couldn't agree more. Oh, look, it's Project Constitution. It's the microphone receiver under Charlie's shirt on his belt left side where the shape charge was set to explode. There's ample evidence to suggest this. Watch my live from today. If you want the biggest lying grifter piece of shit on the planet, it would be Project Constitution. So I appreciate you showing up in my chat, and I'm glad to take your $20 there, Colin. Colin also has been arrested for attempting to sell fake marijuana. And folks, you can just go through his entire timeline. This is the same guy that intentionally went through, took Erika's Instagram post, blocked out, completely edited the background, and then tried to pass Erika Kirk, who on the original Instagram post, it says that she's kissing this girl. All right. And the little girl is her niece. And I believe it's her graduation. But Project Constitution, being the lying, grifting piece of shit that he is, wants to completely get rid of all that information, omit that information, and try to push this off as she's kissing somebody that she doesn't know, a little girl, and that she's grooming this person. So again, Colin, you're a dishonest piece of shit. And I there's no, I want to make sure that we're clear on that. You continue to push lies about me. You've continued to defame me. And look, I'm telling you, man, I'm going to be coming after you. I'm going to be coming after you. I'm still exploring legal. All right. We've already looked into who you are and what's going on. I know exactly where you live, and that is not a threat or anything else. I'm just letting you know that I've looked into you. All right. I would never attack you, and I don't want anyone to take any sort of physical violence against you. What I'm telling you, just so that we're clear, is the only reason you don't have a lawsuit right now is because you don't own anything. You're not worth the time. Or I would have already been coming after you for defamation, libel, and slander, because that's what you do. And you're lucky that you don't own anything. You're lucky you're not worth anything, or I would be coming after you. So, folks, if you guys want to go watch Project Constitution, where he's going to continue to push more lies, you're welcome to do so. There are a few people on this planet that are bigger, dishonest grifters than Colin over at Project Constitution. Yeah, exactly. I'm just enjoying all of this. Well, I will gladly share with you guys who Colin actually is. Well, let's play some of this content. Why not? I already posted it earlier. We already got it up. Let me pull this down a little bit. I'll get to you. I see your super chat, Colin. God, if you want to come on to my channel, you're more than welcome to. I'll send you a guest link right now. Dishonest motherfucker. We'll just leave it at that. Oh. Like, as dishonest as these people are, and how desperate they are for clicks and relevance, and what they're willing to do, and how far they're willing to go to lie to get it, is just insane to me. It's insane. There we go. Let's play some.
Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Hey guys, welcome to the channel. It's me, Colin, Project Constitution. With me today is my lovely guest host. As always, I'm always happy to have Steve with me today. Stephen Benoon, Israeli News Live. We have a great.
All right, so that's Colin. Colin, by the way, who is an overweight version of Cartman and whose voice makes me want to ice pick my own eardrums. That's you know what? I'm going to show you guys another picture of this worthless turd. You know what? No, I'm not. I'll say that for another time. But the point here is there is very few people that are more disingenuous than Colin from Project Constitution. So that's where we're at in all this. Let's see what his other super chat says. Love you too, boo boo. Yeah. Oh, Colin. You know, and Colin, if you're still, here's the problem, Colin. You have a big following over on X. All you got to do is tell the truth, dude. Like, that's all you'd have to do is just to be honest and report facts as opposed to make up these salacious nonsense. And that's a really sad thing. You could be a genuine force for good, Colin. All you got to do is tell the truth. It's not that hard. And you might lose 10%, but not pushing the salacious nonsense. But you'd be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, you know what? I performed with integrity. And that's something you have zero of. And for whatever reason, for the, I don't know, 230 or so thousand followers that he has on X, he does. All right. You did a great job building all that stuff, Colin. Now use it for a force for good. All you got to do is start telling the truth. Not that hard. Not that hard. You know, I could even buy, you know, a little bit of a clickbait title, but when you completely make shit up the way that you're doing, Colin, you're not doing yourself a service and you're not doing the American people a service when we need good alternative sources of news and information. And when you reduce yourself to the bullshit that you're pushing, like, to me, there's nothing worse. I mean, it doesn't get more of a scumbag than that. It really doesn't. A missed opportunity for sure. Well, first of all, Eclectic Journalist, we need to get you on. I know I had to cancel on you that one day. We're going to get you on for sure, and we're going to help you build that channel. And there's lots of other great content creators out there that want to report information and educate people with some integrity. And so we definitely need to get you back on. Colin, you can't say a single thing that I've lied about. There is not a single thing that I have lied about. Feel free to fill. And again, I will send you a guest link. You want to come on the show and you want to talk about it? Feel free to do so. You say the word, I'll send you a guest link. Matter of fact, I'm going to go to your DMs. You want to jump on here and talk about something I've lied about? Come tell me to my face. There's nothing you can say that I've lied about. There you go. Colin has a guest link. You want to jump in here? I can point out, I can go through your entire timeline, dozens of different stories that were absolute fabrications and completely. And by the way, Okay. Speaking of which, let's go to your timeline. Let's look at the one that you just posted about me the other day that was absolutely false. This is fun. Let me see what we have here. Let me find the story you posted about me. There we go. All right. You all tell me whether or not this is a complete misrepresentation of the truth. I will make this big here on this. All right. All right. Someone I know. So Colin posted this on his channel with 280,000 whatever followers. Let's go right here. Bombshell. Obscure YouTuber Gary Melton just exposed himself again. He casually admitted on his live that he was talking, even though he says taking, to Brian Harpole just 7 days after Charlie Kirk's assassination. Let's see if that's true. Gary Melton, Paramount Tactical, went on his live stream last night and accidentally exposed himself yet again. Never exposed myself once. He admitted that he was in direct contact with Brian Harpole as early as September 17th, just 7 days after Charlie was publicly executed. He showed text messages from Ryan Mata. They weren't text messages. They were DMs. Dated 17 September, claiming Charlie was wearing body armor. Gary says he quietly tried to confirm it. And then after talking to Harpole, he came out and pushed that Charlie was not wearing body armor. Let that sink in. While the public was still in shock, while the timeline was still forming, while real investigators were digging, Gary was already on the phone with the very people pushing the Fed slop story. This wasn't organic. This wasn't some random YouTuber just asking questions. This was a controlled asset being activated early to steer the narrative. All right, so here we are. Let's see if what he says is true. Let's go back to the top. Gary went on his live stream. He admitted he was in direct contact with Brian Harpole as early as September 17th, just 7 days after Charlie was publicly executed. Now, let's play the clip that he's referencing and see if that's what I said. Look at the date right there. It's September 1st. And I want you to look at right here. This was something I got from Ryan Mata. This is the first time I'm sharing publicly. First time. Look at the date right there. It's September 17th. I'll just play this because I zoom in on it and I show you the second text on this. All right. Someone I know was related to the surgeon that worked on him. He was wearing a bulletproof vest. All right. So from there, I didn't share this. Didn't share it because I wasn't sure about the source. And now we know the source was extremely wrong. And I wouldn't share anything that Ryan Mata does. But I kept this. And all I was doing was trying to confirm or deny this additionally fairly quietly because I didn't know if it was true. And then the moment that I had full confirmation from somebody there on the scene, Brian Harpole, as a matter of fact, that he wasn't wearing body armor, I came out and I said, hey, yes, guys, I can definitively say at this point, he wasn't wearing body armor. And I want you to look at right here. Now, apparently, with Colin and his entire crew, all right, and everybody that watches it, they don't understand basic listening comprehension. They don't have that skill set because nowhere in there did I say a week after that when Charlie was killed, I talked to Brian Harpole. I didn't talk to Brian Harpole till November 2nd. That's the first time that he reached out to me. I had been trying to get a hold of him as well as everybody else on the ground. As a good journalist, I was reaching out and trying to get a hold of these people while everybody else, like Project Constitution and those people that want to just make shit up are just making shit up. That's what they're doing. They're just making shit up as they go along, coming up with stuff, not talking to a single eyewitness. His fat ass sure as heck didn't go to UVU and actually walk the grounds, get a 3D drone survey to provide it free to everybody out there. He didn't do any of those things. Didn't bring eyewitnesses onto his to talk and to give their perspective. Look, so that is the difference between what these people do that are creating narratives and then me actually following the facts. That's the difference here. So, you know, they can get mad because I was being fair to people. And yes, I ended up getting Andrew Colvett ended up asking me to come on to talk about what was going on with Candace. This is long after I'd already decided, based on the facts, hey, this is kind of where we're at, unless something else comes out. Like, I don't see it makes zero sense to go after TPUSA. Made zero sense just based on what was going on. And so, yeah, I wasn't even necessarily defending TPUSA. I was pointing out the fact that what Candace was doing was wrong from an ethics standpoint, from an investigation standpoint. It was morally corrupt, and it was clearly just a spiteful woman going after an organization that she hated with zero evidence to do that. That's what I was pointing out. And then Andrew reached out to me via a DM. Number one, I was trying to get additional information from the source, trying to get questions answered. And then he had me come on the show and things went from there. But it was never once have I ever been paid by TPUSA, which is something that Colin has continued to push. Candace Owens has continued to say. She said I was hired directly by Erika Kirk, among others. And it is just a smear campaign to undermine my credibility because I won't agree with them. Just like when they say, oh, you're paid by Israel. Like, what are you talking about? Just because I say, hey, I don't think Israel was involved in this because the evidence doesn't suggest that. Now I'm paid by Israel. Now I have, I'm a traitor to my own country and I'm putting Israel first. Like, I'm so sick of this trope about Zionism and all the other nonsense that goes on. I have been so indifferent to Israel. I'll tell you, I am more on Israel's side than I've ever been before at this point, just because I see the people that continue to push this nonsense. I'm like, I don't know what's going on with Israel, but what I can tell you for sure is I'm not on your side because you're a dishonest piece of garbage. That's the way that I feel about this. Like, I never thought we'd be in the spot where we are with all this stuff. It blows my mind how dishonest and how dishonest the people that are supposedly investigating all this stuff is. And then on top of that, the coordinated effort to smear any opposition. I never thought we would. And then on top of that, how stupid people are and how they're so bought into these conspiracy theories that they will go along with smearing people and defaming people and attempting to attack their credibility, their life, like come after you physically, dox you, try to direct threats towards you. Like, it is bizarre to me that we live in the United States of America and we can't have a discussion on what really happened with Charlie Kirk without all this other craziness. Somebody asked me just recently, they sent me a text on X, and she said, you know what, hey, I'm not sold on the Fed narrative. Would you have a different take on Candace Owens if she investigated all this stuff quietly behind the scenes and didn't actually accuse people directly until she had solid proof? And the answer is yes. I would completely be behind Candace's efforts. But when you are making stuff up and without any evidence whatsoever, trying to smear people and ruin their lives, like, these have real impacts. And she seems to be completely oblivious to all of that. When she does when she says the things that she says and accuses these people of the things that she accuses them of, she comes across to me as a complete sociopath. The lack of empathy and sympathy for these people that she has and the vitriol that she directs at these people is mind-blowing to me. And I don't know how anybody can see it differently. Colin, you can send me all the live chats you want, buddy. And there's Trigger Smart. Trigger Smart. Hey, Gary, I got started looking into Charlie Kirk based on your early investigation. I reached out to you a few times early on looking for explosives expert. You have great experience. I love your feedback on theories. Trigger Smart, I will have you on anytime. So you're welcome to come on. We can talk about this stuff. I disagree with, I don't know which theory you're on as far as I understand. You're on the exploding mic theory at this point. I disagree with that, and I disagree with your original theory, which I think you thought Charlie Kirk was shot from the vehicle behind him, if I remember correctly. I think, generally speaking, I think you're operating in good faith. So that being said, you'd like to come on and talk, I'd be happy to do so. And I'll treat you like a friend. We'll have a good discussion, not even debate, a discussion about all this stuff. So I think, and for those of you that have been following me, the entire investigation, you guys know that I was constantly reaching out to people that disagreed with me. And this is what we should have. We should have this coalition of all of these people with different expertise, experiences, perspectives, and be able to get together. And when things like this take place, we can have this round robin of people that are operating in good faith, talking about what they think took place and presenting ideas without it trying to attack and destroy one another. That's what we should have. But I found out real quick that that's impossible. And people were coming after me going back to like day 2 when I was saying, hey, you know what? It wasn't a palm gun. Like immediately people were like, you're paid by the Jews. You're a Fed. It's just the most ridiculous things. Just because, and look, I still think there's a huge psychological operation. And I don't care where you come from. When these divisive events take place, hopefully everybody out there, and I know our viewers are, hopefully you're smart enough to see that there's going to be political and foreign adversaries that are going to take advantage of these things. Trigger Smart, I will send you well, you know what? Let's link up via DM and we'll figure this out. Fair enough. Prairie Schooner says, not sure why anyone would mislead us, but until the trial and it's shown that Charlie wasn't wearing body armor, I'm sticking with body armor. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, look, the body armor, especially at the beginning, explained a lot. And given the information that we have, I will tell you that I am not just because it's been confirmed by multiple people who were there that I believe are telling me the truth, but because of other situations. And this goes back to the 30 frames per second thing that we talked about at the beginning of the show, right? When you're trying to interpret a high-speed, energetic event like a gunshot wound, and all you have is 30 frame per second video, you've lost 98% of the data, folks. So it's hard to see what's taking place, what's happening. All we're trying to do, for those of us acting in good faith, is interpret what's taking place. And what I will tell you is that from the front, when Charlie's hit, it does look like he's hit in the chest first. And I pointed out the gray spot. You guys can go see the original video that I posted. I posted on September 11th, the day after Charlie was killed. And I point out the gray spot. I think ultimately that gray spot was actually blood, either landing on the shirt or possibly even in midair. I think that's what explains that. But again, we're missing a lot of data, and there is a lot of information gaps between the frames that we see in there. The shirt's moving. And that's also why, like, we don't see the actual impact. It's just missed. It's in between those frames. And then, the shirt goes up, it obscures it, and then it shows what is clearly the entrance wound. So I understand the confusion behind all of it, but just also understand that people outside of the U.S. and political forces in the U.S. also understand that whole thing's confusing, and they're going to capitalize and they're going to exploit it, and they're going to weaponize all that information, and they're going to create chaos, and they're going to use it to divide the right. That's what they're trying to do, and doing it successfully. And then they've recruited, I don't even want to say like Candace and many of these other people are recruited, like they're in on this. At a minimum, they've been convinced by some of this chaos. I think they're also creating their own chaos. I don't think they believe half the stuff they believe, but are creating chaos and adding to the chaos and confusion because it's beneficial to them. But on top of that, I do think that there's outside forces, whether that's the George Soros types or there's plenty. I mean, literally name every foreign country out there. They have a lot of reason to push this, to create bots, to push this narrative, to ultimately defeat MAGA, to defeat TPUSA, and to defeat Trump and the conservative movement. They'd much rather have as many leftists, as many Democrats inside that are controlling our government as possible, because foreign adversaries win, the left wins, everybody wins except for the United States themselves and you, the American people. And you got a lot of forces working against you. And they got a lot of money, they got a lot of influence. Even Google and all these other tech companies, folks, look, I think they have more allegiance to China than they do the United States. I really do. And, and that's another thing that really bothers me. We're going to go through this tomorrow with Patriot Misfit. People want to point all the fingers to Israel, they are far from the biggest lobby. They are far from the biggest influence in this country. What China's doing, what Qatar is doing, and influence in this country, and the amount of money that's being spent, like there are much bigger threats than Israel. And I'm okay with even saying, hey, Israel's a problem. I'm fine with that. Let's get rid of all the foreign influence. But they are far from the top problem. And when you have all of these people that can't get off of Israel and pretend like they're the only problem out there, and you got Tucker Carlson going to Qatar and buddying up with these people that are influence our education system, they're pouring money into politics. Like Qatar is all over the place. Qatar is 10 times a bigger problem than Israel is, for sure. And yet we just want to pretend that it doesn't exist. Islam is a bigger problem than Judaism will ever be. And we want to pretend that it doesn't exist. Like when you have all of these influencers where their single problem all goes back to Israel, that tells you that there's messaging going on. When they want to sit there and pretend that we don't have these other issues and these other countries aren't coming after us and trying to influence the American people, they want to talk about Israel geofencing and with TPUSA. And folks, you know who else is doing that? China's doing it. China's doing it. Qatar's probably doing it. I have to look into that. I don't know for a fact, but I do know China for a fact is geofencing and promoting Chinese sponsored propaganda using the exact same stuff. And I think we all agree that China is a bigger threat to the United States than Israel will ever be. And if you can't, then you're operating outside of the real world, outside of facts. I don't know what to say. But Trigger Smart, if you're still listening, I'd love to have you on. As a matter of fact, Trigger Smart, if you, let me see. I'll send you, we don't have to get into the details tonight, but if you're available, I will send you a guest link as well. You can just come on and we can chat a little bit. I don't know what your X handle is, Trigger Smart. Clearly, it's not just Trigger Smart. Anyways, we'll get you on, dude. I got no problem with that. What other super chats we got going on here? I clicked on something. Oh, that's what's going on here. Thank you for all the continuous work. Thank you, man. Order of the Comanche Moon. I like that name. Domsey up in the house. Domsey, Gary, we appreciate everything you do. Satan is using these people to spread lies and chaos. They want us to get angry and lose our faith. Charlie would want us to rise above the lies. God bless you and all your truth seekers on this channel. Absolutely. Look, and that's another distinct difference between Charlie Kirk and whatever this conspiratorial involved movement is. Does anybody think that Charlie Kirk right now would be saying like, hey, something went on, I don't want you to vote now? But that's what this woke right, I don't even know I don't know what box to put them in, these pre-Johns, freaking Candace, like Fuentes that are trying to say, don't vote. We should just let the GOP burn. That's not how this works. All you're going to do is make the problem bigger. It's going to be worse. I don't know what's going on with them. The big $100 super chat. Thank you, CRXN5CZ. Just CR. Thank you for your work. It has made a difference. Keep praying for America, and God will and is turning all things for his good. Pray for God to turn all their evil for good. Look, I do think the good that's going to come out of this, folks, is the fact that, number one, it will get exposed. It's just going to take longer than any of us would like. The other thing that I hope comes out of this is that when we see these types of misinformation campaigns, information operations, psyops, whatever you want to call them, propaganda, I hope in the future we all are much quicker to step in and call BS on all of it. Like we've got to be. We've got, like, truth is the fabric of this nation. And if we allow it to be distorted, and if we allow lies to be pushed, which is everything that Charlie stood on, right? That was his entire platform. It was like, no, we're going to speak truth to lies. I don't care if it's uncomfortable. I don't care who gets mad at me. I don't care who threatens me. I don't care what it takes. I don't care if I lose my life. We're going to stand on truth, and we're going to speak truth to lies. That's what we're going to do. And that's what we're going to do on this channel. That's what Charlie did. And that's what Charlie gave his life for. And now these people are trying to tell you, hey, you know what? Just don't vote. Just don't vote. That's the answer to all this. Let it all burn down. Let the left take over. Like, let's get to a point where there is no return. We all feel that. We all know that. Whether we're looking at the problem with debt, whether we're looking at the Democratic Party and how it's turned so anti-American. They're pushing communism, socialism, like trying to get rid of religion, trying to get rid of any semblance of morality or truth in this, like everything, like their truth, your truth, my truth, it's all relative. It's this moral relativism that has confused everybody. And that's where we're at. Because I don't care if you are conservative. All of us have been indoctrinated with this little bit of accepting other people's bullshit as some sort of moral truth or a relative truth. No, there's objective truth, and then there's bullshit. That's it. And like we gotta get things back in line with what's going on here, because there's true and then there's lies. There's truth and there's lies. There's not all this nonsense in between. And we feel that. And we understand that we are on the brink of losing the greatest country on earth. And like, I don't think there's any coming back from that. Even if, like, today, I know a lot of people are worried about civil wars, and we see everything that's going on in the world around us, including Mexico right now. And I've said it on this show, like, when we talk about the Democrats and Republicans, or the right versus the left or whatever else, what we believe is so fundamentally different. I don't know how those things can be reconciled. And moving forward, I don't know how those things can be reconciled. One of those has to lose completely. I don't know how we move forward as a nation ultimately. And I hope that we can get back to, the Democrats of the 1980s, where we had so much in common with one another as far as Republicans. There were some minor differences, but now it's like communism or capitalism, complete statism, versus freedom. Like those are your choices. Like the differences couldn't be more stark. Thanks for everything you do. Much love from my family to yours. Keep it up. Matt, we love you, buddy. Matt's a personal friend of mine. On top of that, he's a good client, customer. Him and his wife are always up at the shop. They helping Summer out at the shop many days of the week. And we love you guys, and we appreciate you guys more than you'll know. USA, GS70 Stealth. Thank you, buddy. Switching topics, can we talk about how the women and men's hockey kicked ass, and now Alyssa Liu represented the U.S. and not communist China? A little bit. Look, I'm not paying attention to the Olympics. I know that the American hockey team, both the men and the women's, beat Canada. That's awesome. I'll be honest with you. I don't even know who Alyssa Liu is, to be honest with you. Not something I've been paying attention to. You know what? I'll get smart on that by tomorrow night, because it is worth mentioning. I just love the cheating scandal that we had with Canada. That was my favorite. Colin, I didn't even see what Colin said. I sent him I actually sent him a guest link. He could have jumped in here and said whatever he said. Now I've missed it. I'm in GS70 Stealth says, I am independent and there is no way Candace can manipulate me to not vote. And hell no, I will not vote for a Democrat with their policies. Well, that's good, man. Because look through the comments of social media. I mean, it blows my mind. And I'm hoping, and I do, I really do think that a lot of this is bots and sock puppet accounts and all the stuff that's going on out there that is very real. I mean, all you got to do is go to my comment section on X, especially. It's like, it's so clear where you have all of these accounts that are like 1, 2, 3, between 20 followers, that it's clearly fake. And there's clearly an artificial push. But there are so many people, real people that I also know that are like, there's no difference between the Democrats and Republicans. MAGA failed us. Just give up. Just throw your hands up in the air. We're all done. And the Epstein files, I think, has been used as one of the biggest, I don't want to say red herrings, but it's definitely been used as a weapon against the right. So first of all, let's get just a couple things straight that I think me and Patriot Misfit are going to talk more in depth about tomorrow. So I don't want to hit this too hard. But the Epstein files, number one, there's 3.5 million of them, and I think there's 3 million more. We would not have the Epstein files without President Trump. Let's just get that straight. The other thing, too, is you can go through these Epstein files, and there is so much information and wild shit in there that it's hard to figure out and decide what is fact and what is fiction. Now, I know, including myself, everybody out there that saw these Epstein files or heard about the Epstein files, we all thought that we were going to get these Epstein files and that there was just clear proof of, I don't know, name the politician that you don't like that is doing extremely illegal and obvious illegal activity that has to do with PDF stuff. And we were going to see that clear as day. There's going to be conclusive proof, and they were going to be in jail the next day. Well, that's not what's in the files. At the end of the day, while there's tons of files and there are suggestive material in there, and one could even say some evidence, it's not enough to convict people, folks. It's tied anything directly. They could say, hey, you know what? We can definitely convict a person on what's here. And people are willing to abandon our justice system over the mere suggestion. The administration absolutely was willing to do that. We saw that with January 6th. They corrupted and weaponized our justice system. Is that what we want from the Trump administration? So even if, and by the way, there are cases that are being investigated and there have been charges brought because of the Epstein files, and I think there will continue to be. Folks, going through 3.5 million files, on top of that, investigating the individual, all that stuff takes time. And we still have a justice system that I think we would all agree we need to let operate correctly so that we do things with integrity and don't just act like the Democrats and say, you know what, we don't like them. We got enough little bit of information here. We're going to try to, we're going to go arrest them, embarrass them, and then ultimately try to convict them on something that will not stand in court. The Biden administration was willing to do that. Democrats are willing to do that. They're willing to corrupt and weaponize our justice system, whereas we on the right, we shouldn't stand for that. We shouldn't allow that to happen in another administration. So I think we need to sit back and realize what's going on there and understand that there's an element that's saying, hey, you know what? No one's being arrested right now. So clearly the Trump administration is corrupt. Guess what, man? Trump administration, what I do know for a fact, I don't know if the Trump administration is corrupt. I don't know what's involved in the Epstein files. I've looked through them myself. I continue to see what's going on out that's being posted. Like, there is nothing definitive. There's weird stuff about cannibalism, about certain presidents, these alleged stories of doing some horrific things. Nothing that would get a conviction. Nothing that would even rise to the level of probable cause for an arrest, much less a conviction. And there are people that are using that as propaganda to trick you into believing that the Trump administration and the right is just as bad as the left. Whereas we have the left that's like, hey, you know what? Let's have open borders completely. Let's just open up the borders. We're going to have millions of people flood in. I don't care, ultimately, about this nonsense of the Epstein files because it's not conclusive from anything that I've seen. What I do know for a fact is that when Trump came in, he sealed the border. We have net negative migration for the first time in 50 years. That means there's less people coming in and more people going out than coming in, right? So that's what we have. And that's one of the things that's going to save our country. We've got to get rid of these illegal immigrants. And that, to me, like, if the Trump administration did nothing else for 4 years, I'm happy with that. But there's more than that. They've increased energy production by over 50%. There's 55% more leases and permits being put out to American energy companies here in the United States. We've seen that. We have record low inflation. I won't say record low. We have half the inflation rate, less than half the inflation rate that we had under the Biden administration. So there's all these huge positive things that the Trump administration has done that's being overshadowed by the Epstein files and everything else people are whining about. We hit that one. Gary, you missed my super chat. Okay, all right. Let me go back here. Folks, if I ever miss a super chat, trust me, it's not intentional. I'm flipping back and forth and they move on me. This is why I need a producer. So again, folks, if you're interested in being a producer and what that will entail is working with me before a show. We find a bunch of graphics, things that we want to play during the show, get it all planned out. You do that for me. So when I'm sitting here, I can sit here and talk and not mess with chats and all the other stuff. Anyways, DL Podcast, ParamountTactical.com. We can talk about getting that done. All you need to see is Gary asked him to come on the show and he didn't. That's all you people need to know who's telling the truth. I believe that's the one you're saying I missed. Perfect. You're right. Is that exactly right? Let me make sure. Yep, that's the one I missed. All right. We got you taken care of, Lyle. Good point. Love it. The internet is full of monkeys in basements pounding on keyboards, and then there are the clods who believes it's because they saw it on the internet. You're right. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to help Gary get the truth out. We appreciate that. Like, subscribe, share it. If you're going to share our shit, Colin, if you're still watching, don't just pull it out of context and say in your headline, I said something I didn't. Freaking turd bag. Call Candace Baroness Farmer to destroy her relatability. I think she's doing a really good job destroying her relatability. When you have this woman that gets on her show and says, we all know kids don't sleep through the night. Toddlers are sleep trained. They're going to be in REM sleep at this point. Like, tell me not every single parent out there, even if you're a supporter of Candace, you didn't be like, like, what? Like, I don't know a toddler that doesn't get up regularly in the middle of the night. Like, what drugs do you put your kids on? I think at that point, all of us realized that she has night nannies or somebody taking care of her kids. And, you know, all the stuff that people want to talk about, Erika not taking care of her kids, all I know, if we base on Erika or whomever taking care of their kids or not, based on public appearances, then my God, Candace is clearly not taking care of her kids by a much longer shot than Erika. Like, we hardly ever see Erika. Erika is not on social media. I don't even know if you could boil it down to like once or twice a week. A lot of the stuff that we continue to see are when she was, you know, doing something. Like, she is clearly at home or at least off camera way more often than Candace. Candace is filming every single day. Who's taking care of her kids? And again, you know, Erika kids are young. They can travel with her. Even if she does even if she did a 1 hour television appearance every single day, like, we could at least give Erika the same grace that apparently everybody's willing to give Candace. Candace is on the camera every single 5 days a week for at least an hour. There's probably a couple hours of show prep. So she's got 3 or 4 hours. So now she has, I don't know, 12 hours left with her kids. thereabouts that she can spend all day with. Like, I'm willing to give her that grace, but Erika is on camera a lot less than Candace Owens, and now she's never home with her kids. She doesn't take care of her kids. We haven't seen the kids. Where's the kids? They've been taken by CPS. Like, you want to start all these baseless rumors. You're disgusting people. That's where we're at. So as far as relatability, to me, like, I already knew that Candace is this rich elite person and clearly has no real life experience, just the things that she regularly says and does. And when she said that, though, I was like, bro, she is so out of touch and so out of touch with the normal Americans. When you want to sit there and try to say that they were having this fight and your reasoning behind this is because a kid allegedly got up like that, that's impossible. No toddler would get up. They'd be in REM sleep. Like, shut up. You're a moron. You're not a normal person. She may even be a lizard person. I'm not going to lie. Peel that skin back. I feel like I'm watching an episode of V. Yeah, don't listen to black pillars. They want you to give up so they can take over. There's part of that. I think there's a genuine portion of the black pillars that are just these petulant children that are like, I didn't get everything I wanted out of the Trump administration. Forget the fact that there's still we still have a Democrat House. People, like, we don't have the entire House. Like, we don't have a majority proof. We don't have a majority in everything, right? We still have opposition to deal with, and we still have a legal system and a legislative system that was made to be intentionally difficult. That's the way that our country was founded. And like, just because President Trump gets in, he can't just do everything he wants right off the bat. And there are some of these folks, and I'm going to put Nick Fuentes in this category and probably many others. They're just like, we didn't get everything that we wanted right when he came into office, so these people will be damned. Like they're just people throwing tantrums, children throwing tantrums. And that's where they're at with all this stuff. And that's why they're like, oh, you know what? I don't get everything that I want. They didn't give it to me when I wanted it. We're just going to quit. We're going to burn this system down and give it to the left. That makes sense. I lost my place on here. What is going on with this? Is what's going on here. All right. There we go. All right, CJ Correnti, get the 10 Paramount Tactical memberships. The number one supporter of the Paramount channel is CJ Correnti. Folks, the amount of support that he gives us on a daily and weekly basis is that, but there's so much other things that CJ does behind the scenes to help us out and support us. Just want to let you know I appreciate you. And that doesn't diminish anything that all of you do every single day when you're showing up, helping us out with super chats, become members, support us on X. We appreciate that stuff too, folks. Team Ginger, Disney up, boiler up. Team Ginger, that is all. If Fatty Boom Baldy believes his lie, why didn't he accept the invitation? Should tell you all you need to know. The truth stands by itself. Couldn't agree more. Tammy, I love you too. I always see you over there bringing the fight to everybody. She's scrappy over on X. Love watching her get after people in the comment sections. Pretty funny. The jab was a mind control op. Candy is too. Weak-minded people, we are going to need neural rehabilitation units. I agree. Look, because we were traumatized by the Biden years from COVID, what happened was we were primed as a nation for the equal and opposite. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we were at this point where, like, we're not trusting the government. They lied to us. Media lied to us. So now so many people just abandon any sort of critical thinking. We're like, whatever the opposite is being said, I'm going with that. So we as a nation were primed for this type of psychological operation. And our enemies are smart, both political and foreign. Look, they're smart. They can read the room. They can see what's going on. And they're going to use the vulnerabilities that we have as a nation against us. And that's what's going on with this. It's like, look, I mean, it doesn't take a rocket science to figure this out. It's like, all right, you know what? I realize that these people have been abused by their government. I know they don't believe anything the government says. So now, if the government is telling the truth, all I got to do is create this other narrative, put it on a silver platter, and millions of people are going to accept it because they're not going to trust the government. They're going to say it's Fed slop, but yet you will accept social media slop, the wine slop, with no evidence whatsoever. And even though there is a profound amount of evidence to support, in this case, the Fed slop, you're going to reject it outright. Doesn't make sense. You guys got to see through the forest through the trees a little bit there. Well, hell's bells. I'm 62 and I get up 2 times. It's because you're not sleep trained. You're not sleep trained. You got to get sleep trained, Storm Pooper. You'd be all right if you were sleep trained. Or you can get you a night nanny that'll bring you a bedpan. I used to joke about the exact same thing. When our kids were small, the first one, who is now 16, when I was in the military, of course, I was getting up way early, and we had my 16-year-old when he was a baby. I used to joke all the time, like, yeah, our kid never wakes up. He was sleep trained from the beginning. That's because he was over there with mom, and she took care of him. And of course, I was getting up at least the latest was like 4 a.m. to be at work on time. And then I was at work till, 6, 7 p.m. at night. And that's when I wasn't on deployment. So yeah, Summer did all the work. And I don't remember waking up one time when my 16-year-old, it's pretty crazy. Like I've gotten to the point where I'm very careful. And look, we know this from a security standpoint. But I realize that anything I say about my kids or my family or anything else will now be used as an attack point. And, it's a shame that we live in that society and we're in this environment. So that's where we're at. Unvaxxed here since day one when COVID started and alive and well today. Look at you. And your immunity against all things is probably stronger than anyone that's vaxxed out there. Candace Owens' biggest problem is she's not Gen X. If she was, we wouldn't even be here right now. End of story. I think there's something to that. That's a component of this, without a doubt. I do think that there's less Gen Xers that believe some of this nonsense, but there's definitely plenty of them do. But I've talked about this before, and this goes back to this moral and the relativism, right? We've got to a point where the majority of people out there are not, they're not conditioned, or they're conditioned to not say what is right or what is wrong, which, by the way, is completely unbiblical. It's unscientific. It's illogical, but we've all been conditioned to some point to where it's like, you don't want to step in and say, well, that'd be rude if I said, if you believe up is down and down is up, that's your truth. It's this hippie shit that we've all been taught, and we all have a little bit of it. All of us do. And we got to get rid of that shit. That we're losing our country over that one thing. I think relativism has been one of the most destructive and successful propagandized things that has been inculcated into our society. It is probably the original mind virus for sure. Make sure I didn't miss anybody else's super chats. If I missed anybody else's super chats, let me know. Try not to, but I'm jumping back and forth here, and it's hard to keep track. You were trying to fearmonger us into believing that a bartender from the Bronx is scarier than an elite global cabal of pedos that's being covered up by the people I voted for is hilarious. That's the dumbest statement ever, thud. It's not what I said. No, I don't. Here's what I would say. The globalists, what you're talking about, they are the left. Like the right and what we believe on the right is the solution to one world governments. It's the solution to the globalism. It's this like small governments, individual liberty is the antithesis of all of those globalist bullshit. All right. And all of those globalist people, the one world order people, are some version of the left. They're not for small government. They're not for individual liberties. They're not for gun rights. They're not for freedom of speech. So I don't know what you're talking about. And what you're trying to gaslight us into is trying to say that because I'm saying you still got to vote. You still got to vote, or you're going to lose this country. It's going to get worse and worse. Or we're going to go back to the Biden era where our economy sucked. We were being invaded by millions of illegal aliens that are completely destroying this country, that are sucking the money that we have bled for and died for and created on a regular basis. They're taking it. They're taking all the advantages that have been created by the citizens of this country, and we're giving those advantages that we fought hard for over to illegal immigrants and people that don't deserve the same things that we deserve. And we're selling our kids, our grandkids, everybody in the future, like our country's future. We're selling it so that we can appease people that are here, that came here illegally. And I've been thinking about this, and I think I may have mentioned this one other time. There is one solution to this illegal immigration problem. This is it. Going forward, I don't care what happened, but going forward, what we need is a law that says that if you come in this country illegally, not only are you immediately deported, you are never allowed to come back. That is the way, that is the solution to all of this. That is the deterrence that we need to make sure that people respect our borders, respect the laws within this country. If you want to live here, if you want to come to the United States, Congress needs to pass a law immediately. Hey, you know what? Going forward, all right, we can deal with everything going on in the past. Going forward, you come into this country illegally, you are never allowed back. That's what it should be. That's the only thing that's going to work. So anyways, Thud, I reject your statement completely. It's stupid. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, share that content. I'm still bothered about the vacation she and George took with two priests in October. I have a feeling they discussed on how to tear down TPUSA. I'm not aware of that. I don't know what you're talking about. So I need to look that up. And again, this is why we do these things. So I learn from you guys. I haven't heard about this vacation that I knew she went on vacation in October. What I didn't know is that she went on with two priests. And again, so you missed my regular chat. My bad. Yeah. Industrial military complex is right or left, in your opinion? I don't think it's as black and white as that. I do think that the left has hijacked the military industrial complex. And when we are looking, when we're looking at these forever wars, I think it's just corruption, but it happens on both sides. This is where things get less clean and less black and white. And there's people that get sucked into this. So, and look, there's a spectrum of people, of how people feel, including myself, of how people feel when it comes to how we should defend our country and our defense objectives and policies, right? So, like, some people believe that we need to be super aggressive, and I'm definitely more toward that side. Like, I do believe in a strong military deterrence. I think that works. And I love the way that Donald Trump has executed, for instance, the operation in Venezuela. Those are things that we should be doing, where if you're going to screw with the United States, or you're going to threaten the United States, or you are a threat to the United States, we need to do quick, fast, strategic operations, take out the problem, and come back without committing troops, without committing to any sort of nation building. And people's philosophies on that are not going to be like this monolithic, everyone agrees. There's going to be a spectrum of how we think that should be executed. Look, ultimately, the military industrial complex is a product, is a is a left thing, right? Like it's a big government, big issue that is just a ripe for corruption. But at the same time, we still need to have like we need to be invested in some of the best technology, the best military forces. Like there needs to be like this military industrial complex, but it's gotten out of control. What we need to do is figure out how to a better way to police it and audit it. And again, because of all these, we have hundreds and hundreds of different government entities, and then we have NGOs, and then we have these subcontractors, and then like it's so complicated. We got to figure out how to I don't know, get our mind and hands around that and actually do a better job regulating those things. And I'll be honest with you, I don't have a good answer for you on that. But it's not as simple as left or right when it comes to defense, period. Where's the wall? Where's the mass deportation? Well, we have deportation. I mean, and we have almost zero people coming in illegally. Look, nobody actually cared about a wall, right? The wall was a means to an end. And I got notes for all this stuff. Because I just talked about it the other day. Let's talk about what we have going on with mass deportation, with the current policies and everything else. Because people need to understand what's actually taking place in the United States. All right. The Trump administration has achieved net negative migration for the first time in at least 50 years. Illegal boarding crossings declined to the lowest level since 1970, with a sustained downward trend and net negative migration figures. Record 3.2 million migrant encounters under Biden in fiscal year. So we had over 3 million entries. I think he got almost close to 4 million at one point. And that's just the ones that we were tracking. So we went from over 4 million. Let's be conservative. Say 3 million people that were coming in per year illegally. And I think it was probably double that. So we don't have, all right, we have negative net migration. They have the Border Patrol has always had the ability to actually secure a border. What we had was an administration that wouldn't allow them to do that. And by the way, I know that. I know lots of guys in Border Patrol. And they were extremely frustrated during the Biden administration. So it's not that we don't have the technology. It's not that we necessarily need a wall. A wall makes it easier. But I mean, again, the point here is the objective is to stop illegals coming across the border. And the President Trump has done that. So you can get all black-pilled on that if you want, but that's just the fact. And that has had a major impact on jobs. Again, 2 million native-born Americans have gained employment because of that. 600,000 foreign-born workers lost employment. 1.8 million native-born Americans joined the labor workforce, and 800,000 foreign-born workers have left the workforce. So we're having huge impacts. Fentanyl has decreased by over 50%. Drugs coming across the border have decreased significantly because of the Trump administration. We still got lots of work to do, but they've actually achieved a lot. And for you just to go black pill thud and say that like, oh, you're just trying to gaslight me into believing that AOC is the worst thing. No, it's not AOC. AOC is nobody. What I'm trying to tell you is us having a Republican president, Donald Trump specifically, and us having a conservative House and Senate where we can get things done they're not perfect. We're not going to get everything that we want. That's the way politics works. You have to give and take. But what we've gotten is a lot better than what we'd have if Kamala Harris had won. Alligator Alcatraz, look, they are building, even around here, West Virginia, they're building detainment facilities all over the place. So real things are happening. And I do think we're going to see the number of, and we still are getting a lot more deportations. Look, I did the math. if we're going to get rid of 20 million, I think the number was the one that I used. If we get rid of 20 million illegal immigrants, which is at least what we have here in the United States, it's like 23,000 deportations per day, every single day for the 4 years Donald Trump's in office. We're nowhere near that. It's never going to happen. But I do think the deportations are going to continue to go up. And, you know, I know we're all stuck on what's happening in Minnesota. Like, that's getting all the attention. There's not that many deportations happening in Minnesota, not nearly as they should be, because we basically have an entire state that's, you know, in the middle of this insurrection. I mean, that's a real insurrection when you have the governor and state officials completely, you know, going against federal authority. That's what an insurrection actually looks like. All the other states, especially the Republican states, Texas, and so many more, like, there are hundreds of thousands of deportations taking place quietly behind the scenes. It's just these couple of states, Democrat strongholds, that are getting all the attention. And there's actually not that many deportations taking place, but there's a lot more happening behind the scenes. Not as many as we'd like, but 1,000% more than what would happen under the Biden administration. I mean, name anyone on the left that argued for more wars than Cheney, McCain, and Graham. Be honest, this is ridiculous. I'm not arguing that. I mean, again, you're kind of bringing up a red herring here. Like, what I can tell you is that the entire left, if they'd have had control of everything, we'd probably have boots on the ground in Ukraine right now. They're pushed the Ukraine war left and right. I mean, all through the Biden administration, suddenly the left has become, you know, the pro-war party. That's a fact. So, look, we are over the Cheneys. As someone that did 4 combat tours, I understand better than most the real impact of war. And I do believe that Americans had their eyes open to what we were sold regarding Iraq and Afghanistan and the global war on terror in general. But, I mean, still, all things aside, the left is far worse. We're going to lose our country. We're going to lose our freedoms. They openly advocate for all those things. They want to take your guns away. They want to open the borders. They want to make sure that we have a shitty economy by giving entitlements to everybody. They incentivize people not producing here in the United States. They do that on a regular basis. And for people to sit here and pretend that they don't, it's ridiculous. There is a balance that I think we need to find when it comes to defending this country and our foreign policies that we haven't got to yet. I think with Trump, it's been one of the best that it's ever been. There's lots of things I disagree with, and we need to make sure that we stay out of foreign wars. You know, Iran's another discussion that we can have. I'm still trying to figure out how I feel about Iran. I'll say this, where I stand right now with Iran. Out of all the things that we've ever been sold, whether it's Iraq, Afghanistan, Bosnia, you name it, doesn't really matter. Iran actually makes the most sense. Now, I don't want to get involved in Iran because we've been burnt by our government before, but I do think we have, as Americans, we have a much better image of what has taken place with Iran, the threat that they present. Iran, I think it would be extremely detrimental to global stabilization and American security, both home and abroad, if Iran gets a nuclear weapon. And I think if there was ever a case, not boots on the ground, but some sort of highly effective, sustained military strikes in a country, Iran is the best example of that. I'm not saying we should. I'm going to do a little bit more soul searching on that. But I think it's the best case for us actually doing something militarily. So there's that. Over the Cheney, we still got Lindsey. Look, you think you're going to get me on here and defending Lindsey Graham? I think he's a complete rhino. Mitch McConnell. I mean, there's a bunch of them. They need to go. So I don't even know what you're arguing, dude. Can you play Candace Owen intro? People are saying it's awful. Sure. Let me see what we got there. Anything for you, Tammy? Let me see what we got here. All right, here it is. Let me share this tab instead. I haven't seen this, so we will play it for all of you people. Let me get rid of that. Oh, oop. I'm gonna make this big. And here we go.
Utah Valley University. President Trump says that Kirk has died after he was shot from a nearby building after being shot at Utah Valley University. The great and even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead.
The cries of this widow will echo around the world like a battle cry.
I didn't even get to give him a kiss goodbye.
That young man, I forgive him.
Take your time.
Erika Kirk has been named the new CEO of Turning Point USA.
My husband's dead. Like, I'm not trying to be morbid, but he's dead.
It's weird to say excited.
Describes her husband's funeral as the event of the century. Merch, hats.
We have 50,000 plus hat orders.
Nobody knows why she's out there in a glittering pantsuit in a recreated tent that her husband tragically was murdered in, throwing merch out.
Everyone grieves differently, so if someone's acting weird, don't read into that.
Zionists, the Prime Minister of Israel, all lied through their teeth about Charlie Kirk.
Her operation was in Constanta, the epicenter of Romania's trafficking scandal.
We heard conversations to have with a 15-year-old. I'm going to touch your butt.
$8.6 million to their own shell company.
What is going on?
We have nothing to hide. My aunt used to tell me, never do something that you don't want on the front page of a newspaper.
Yeah, well, that's pretty disgusting. I don't know. There's, I don't know what to tell you on that. It's exactly what I expected it to be, right? Yeah. Hold on. Biden is called the auto pin. Yeah, Thud, I don't even know what your arguments are, to be honest with you. Let me see this. Yeah, I am curious to see her response to Graham Allen's interview with Tracy Martin. So we'll see what's going on there. Put more effort into the trailer than she did investigating the Tates. Yeah, I mean, there's instance after instance that we can point to where Candace Owens has covered up and or aligned herself with people that are clearly into trafficking and much worse than anybody that she's trying to accuse of crimes over on the TPUS side of things. Whether it be the Tates, Harvey Weinstein, that series that she did on, I don't even remember the guy's name. He was a PDF, convicted PDF. She withheld his name while she advertised the victim's name. That was like 13 or 14 years old at the time that she was assaulted by the PDF. Like, how does that even make sense? So, and look, she wants to go hard in the paint and try to push the Epstein files onto everybody that she doesn't like. But yet she's never talked about the fact that the Catholic Church has, and look, I'm not like, for all you Catholics out there, and every Catholic I know, by the way, is upset about this as well. There's clearly some issues going on there with trusts, kids, priests, and the Catholic Church. She's never talked about that. And it's worth discussing. And as someone that has a national platform the way that she does and is a Catholic, I think she should be holding people accountable. because there are hundreds and hundreds of victims that have come out from that. This is not speculation or hearsay. Those are facts. So, she has selective outrage is my point with that. And I think we'd all agree with that. Thank you for your service. God bless USA. This podcast for patriots. I follow you with pride. Well, thank you, Cindy Williams. We appreciate you. We appreciate your support. At Rage Bronson, I feel his rage over in here. I didn't see him in the comments, but I haven't been really paying attention to the live comments that closely, kind of zipping through them. We always love old Rage Bronson, full of common sense, good analysis, good friend to the channel. I'm sure he's in there somewhere. I still don't see him. Me too, Gary. Thank you. She's a fake Catholic. I would agree with that. Like General H.R. McMaster said, this country is being thrown away in a breadbasket. Is the USA being run by pedos, peevage, rich man, blah, blah, blah. Look, how do I want to frame this? I want to frame this correctly. Obviously, the reason the Epstein files is so explosive and this whole PDF thing is such a huge topic is because every reasonable person out there is completely disgusted by the idea. So it's extremely controversial, extremely salacious. It's going to be used for gains in many different ways, from politics to clicks to you name it. Any creator out there, they can throw up the Epstein files and they're going to get a bunch of views. That being said, we need to get to the bottom of that. All right, that needs to be investigated. Anybody that's guilty of that, I mean, if the evidence is strong enough, like immediate death penalty. All right, and the more public, the better, as far as I'm concerned. Drawn and quarter. I'm all about that stuff. That's not how we're going to lose our country, though, folks. This is globalism. It's the left. It's communism. It's socialism. It's China. It's Qatar. It's all of these other threats that are obviously going to have a bigger impact on our daily lives. And while that is going to grab our attention, and it should, I think we're getting distracted. And I think that distraction is intentional, because anybody that thinks there's going to be a whole lot that comes out of what I've seen of the Epstein files, I think you're going to be disappointed. There's just not enough definitive information in there. Now, there could have been. The Biden administration had those for 4 years. They sat on them. We have no idea. There's no real, you talk about chain of custody. We don't know what's been fabricated and put in there. We don't know what's been taken out of there. There's no reason to trust most of the information in the Epstein files. There's just no reason to. And of course, they're still holding on to 3 million pages or documents or whatever they got, files. So I think it's going to ultimately be this huge distraction. It doesn't make all the other things that were important before the Epstein files less important now that the Epstein files exist. And we need to keep our attention, and we need to keep our eye on the ball and look at the fact that we're losing this country, and look at the fact that the left is taking over, and look at the fact that we have one of the worst public education systems that is not designed to educate anybody. It is designed to indoctrinate our kids. We have an economy we've outsourced all U.S. industrial production overseas. If we did have suddenly a world war, how would we even be able to sustain that fight? We got into a fight with China, just like we saw back in COVID. We rely on China for medicines, for just about everything. So, we got to bring that production back home. Trump just lost the Supreme Court fight for tariffs, which is unbelievable. Look, we got a lot of problems in this country, and the PDF thing is extremely important, but it's not the most detrimental, for sure. And I think that's being used as a distraction, and it's easy. It's a good distraction. All right, it grabs our attention, but we got to keep our eye on the ball. Yeah, exactly. Look, Charlie Kirk knew everything that he needed to know about Erika. Charlie Kirk was a brilliant dude, extremely intelligent. He could see Erika for what she is. Absolutely did a background check on her, knew everything about her, had private conversations that are between him and Erika about her past. Yeah, prayers for her and her family. Absolutely. Project Constitution takes. I mean, have them prove it's not true. I mean, that's where we're at in this country. We can make all the allegations we want, and you have to prove you're innocent. So, Colin, I need you to prove to us that what Dr. Altoids here is saying is not true. Please prove that for us. Prove it in negative. Lace and Con are trying to get your attention. Okay, sorry. Lace and Con, what's going on? There you go. Trigger Smart HQ. Got it. All right. I will send him if nothing else, we can have a quick chat. Let me see if, let me just double check to make sure he hasn't tried to contact me. And it's so much easier to do on the phone. There we go. All right. To Trigger Smarts on December 12th, he did send me a attempt to contact me. It looks like some more before that. I just didn't see those. So, Trigger Smart, I just sent you a guest link. You're more than welcome to jump in, man. We can talk. So feel free to jump in here. I'll give him a few minutes to do that. Yeah, I don't necessarily think that China's going to fight a ground war with us. I think they're going to continue. Look, China's smart, and they have the long game figured out. They're beating us economically. They're beating us. They're weakening us in many different ways, including, buying up resources, everything inside this country, land, stealing our intellectual property, amongst other things. So that's where we're at. I don't think they can use the files in the criminal court, the chain of custody, rich people, good lawyers. They will never see a quorum. So where I think they're at on a lot of this stuff is not necessarily that they would use the documents in court, but they may be able to use them for probable cause to start an investigation. Not necessarily probable cause for an arrest, but probable cause for an investigation. And there has been some, Pam Bondi has moved on some of those. There was a whole list of indictments that came directly from the Epstein files. In 2021, there were 5 million images of compromised children. In 2024, the number was 38 million. That's one image for every 10 Americans. We need to return our country to a moral fabric. It's not just about Epstein. You're absolutely right. I mean, look, there has been a long-standing effort to get rid of religion and God out of this country. And we're seeing the results of that. We're not a better nation for that. Everybody has the right to believe in God or not, or practice a religion or not, but I don't think that we're a better nation without God. And when there has been such an effort to delegitimize religion in general, and to make people feel like if you do believe in God, you're stupid, or you're backward. All the things that we've heard. We're not a better nation for it, for sure. I'm just going to text or DM Trigger Smart. If we don't link up today, we can link up offline and discuss whatever. Get him on the show. All right. Message sent there. Contact with Trigger Smart made. Yeah. Candace crashed out saying you don't just get to be a widow. You don't just get to be widowed into CEO. Yes, she does, Candace, and it burns her up so badly. And that's not what happened either. Like, she didn't just get widowed into being a CEO. Charlie Kirk has expressed multiple times to multiple people that he felt that she was the best person to carry on his legacy. Doesn't mean that she was the best, she would be the best CEO. And I don't even know what capacity that she is operating in that regard. I think it's more of, hey, this is the direction that we need to be heading, and she's going to put the right people in place to make sure. And ultimately, that is what a CEO does. It's not like she's going to be on the front lines doing all. And look, we can't replace Charlie, but that is the role that she is there to fill, is to make sure that that TPUSA continues in the direction that Charlie wanted. And it's the same role that my wife would fill if something happened to me. Like, her and I have built this business together. She knows what I want out of this business, and would like to think that she would continue. And look, we have many, many disagreements. Like, hey, we need to be doing this. No, we need to be doing this. And I would like to think that at least half the time she would defer to what she thinks that where I would want to take this business if something happened to me. How are Epstein 21-year-old call himself victims? How are DPS 21-year-olds call themselves a victim? I have not heard yet below 18. Oh, yeah. So I think I know what you're talking about. You're basically saying that there was not a bunch of underage people at the time. Yeah. Like, even that seems to be really unclear. Gary, we would love for you to collab with Patriot Source Podcast again. They're exposing a lot of Epstein and government scandals. Be happy to. I was just talking to them the other day. We need to make that happen. We talk about it, and then we get busy, and we talk about it, and we get busy. Just the normal ebb and flow of how life and business and everything else takes us. Love those guys. Love what they do. I mean, those are, people over at Patriot Source Podcast. I would have any of them or all of them on a weekly basis. We have a congressman in an address mad about legislation blocking minors to adult websites will hurt queer and trans kids, all still passing laws for state-sanctioned PDFs, protected class Democrats. Look, absolutely. When you look at whether we're talking about the trans movement, which is dips its toe into the whole PDF thing, it's hard to separate those two. There's definitely a lot of crossover there. Or the Democratic Party, they're the ones that are pushing for these policies. And again, you're never going to hear me defend anybody that's guilty of any of that stuff on the right. And again, just look at what we're talking about. Look what is consuming our conversations. Yes, the Epstein files are important. Whatever happened to Epstein, I don't know. I don't know if he's dead, if he's still alive. I don't think he killed himself. I don't know what happened. But like, at the end of the day, it's like 1% of our real problems. And I'm not saying it doesn't deserve attention. It should. But I do think that it's being used as a major distraction. Yeah. All right. I'm going to put this up here, and then tomorrow I'm going to have numbers, and I do over here, by the way, because I'm going to disagree with a lot of this stuff. 2025 was a jobs disaster. Job creation collapsed from 2 million added in both 2023 and 2024 to only 181,000 added in 2025. GDP growth also fell from 2.9% and 2.8% in 2023 to 2024 to 2.2 in 2025. Yeah, again, I'm going to address all those things tomorrow. I'm going to make sure I have all the numbers, and I'm going to fact check them and make sure they're correct. What I can tell you right now is our economy is much better off under Trump than Biden on every category. So we'll go through those numbers tomorrow for sure. How about you and Graham Allen stream? I've talked to Graham. He invited me on his show, which I will definitely take him up on, and I've invited him on mine. It's just a matter of finding a time to schedule those things and make it happen. So stay tuned. Going to happen. 21 years of age. LOL. It's freedom of choice. So either pick Burger King or a big buck. LOL. Agreed. Creating a documentary series on Erika is depraved. And here's the problem with it. Not necessarily that it's a documentary series on Erika. I think it's, no matter what, even if it was done fairly, which that's the real problem. We know it's not going to be fair and objective. That's the issue. It's going to be a hit propaganda piece. That's what's going to, we all know that. Even if it was a fair and objective documentary on Erika Kirk, to release one so quickly after the assassination of her husband, I think would be distasteful. It is disgusting that it is going to be a smear and hit piece on Erika Kirk 6 months, 5.5 months after the assassination of Charlie Kirk. I'll leave it at that. Let me go hit a couple of these lives. I was really just kind of holding out to see if Trigger Smart would jump in. Either way, we've made contact on X, so if he's around, I'll get him on here. Maybe even have him on here a little bit tomorrow. If not, we will schedule a time where he can go through the entire, I know he's kind of bought in onto the exploding microphone. I'll have him on. We'll talk about it, and we'll see what happens. I'd like to take this moment to apologize to the chat for my repeated spamming of Trigger Smart's handle. I was determined enough. Drove myself nuts. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Lace, all is forgiven. We're allowing evil to take over when we sit by and allow religion to destroy the people who believe in God. People can believe or not believe, but have no right to take the life of those who believe. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Sonia. Continue Freedom, another great friend of the channel that we need to get you back on here, bud. Exactly. If we remove the only higher power than government, God, then the government has the ability to take rights at their leisure. At that point, natural rights are dead. I agree. I agree with this too. Look, I think all of us need to be praying for Erika. I think we need to be praying for TPUSA. There's a look, what I want TPUSA to do is I want them to go after Candace legally. And I know many of you do as well. And I think many of us think that is the correct thing. What I would pray is that they do what God would like them to do. And maybe that's what they're doing by ignoring it. Maybe ultimately that is the right answer. Maybe, and I don't have any insider information on this, folks. So maybe they are lawyering up, and maybe they are getting ready to take her to court and sue her for defamation. They should. Like, there needs to be something in place that is a clear deterrent from this type of thing ever happening again. So not only pray for Erika, but pray for both Erika and TPUSA for wisdom and to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing and what God wants them to do. This is exactly right. It wasn't just that she was widowed into being the CEO. The board made a decision and they chose Erika. So Candace can be as butthurt as she wants to over this. Doesn't change the facts. I do agree that this is part of their analysis, right? That a lawsuit is a waste of time. They're behind the Macrons on bankrupting her. It only costs time and money while giving Candace more content. I think that is possible because they will weaponize everything that they do along, again, if they file a defamation suit and let's say they're guaranteed to win, even if they're guaranteed to win, that defamation suit is going to take 3 to 5 years for sure. It's going to take 3 to 5 years. So in the meantime, she could be getting her ass handed to her by the Macrons and they take all of her money and there's nothing left for TPUSA. So now TPUSA has spent millions of dollars of donors' money. And just understand that, TPUSA is a nonprofit. Like, they're not producing anything. They're relying on other people's money to get things done. And this may be what they're using as far as a calculus to make these determinations. And it's probably the right answer. So while all of us are sitting here like, God, we got to take this woman down, and not take her down for the sake of taking her down because what she's doing is evil. I want to make sure that we're clear on that. We want justice. That's what we want, right? We don't want to see Charlie's legacy destroyed after he was killed unjustly. And that's what they're doing. Everything that they're throwing her, Baron Coleman, Dances with Wolves, Wolves and Finances, Ian Carroll, all of her surrogates, all these people are making a lot of money, and it originates with Candace, and then Candace does outsource some of the other things. Like, Candace does outsource, I don't know where she stands on the exploding mic theory, but Candace is good at not committing to some of these specifics. She's been really slimy on that, and she just throws stuff out there, and then she lets her surrogates do the dirty work that they're going to end up being held accountable for potentially when it turns out to not be true. So she's been very strategic on that. I'll give that to her. This is something that's been said a lot. Maybe they're waiting until after the trial. The trial is going to drain Erika unless Robinson formally pleads guilty. Yeah, and on top of that, with a verdict delivered at the Tyler Robinson trial, that would give any sort of defamation suit, they would go after Candace much more strength. So, that is an element of this. Candace's advanced delusional schizophrenia with involuntary narcissistic rage mixed with PTSD from mold and yeast triggered by her Jewish landlord. That's true. What doesn't explain... My dog's up there barking something. What we don't have an explanation for is the mass psychosis that we see with her followers, because her followers are the real problems. Because even when Candace came out right after she came back from her meeting with Erika and said Charlie Kirk was shot from the front. It was a 30-06. She went through and decimated all the other nonsense that was surrounding this, and in a very declarative way, because she was clearly given additional information that she had not had before. The very next day, she abandoned all of that and went after all the nonsense that she's going after now, and went back to Fort Huachuca, by the way. And later on just a couple days later, had Mitch Snow on. So that was in direct response to her comments, because you can go look at the comment section and they were ready to, they were pissed at Candace for sure. The pitchforks and torches crowd we're about to turn on her. Candace, I will never dismiss the Macron case. I will go all the way. Also, Candace tries to get her Macron case dismissed multiple times now. The court records show this. So, again, we did have Andrea Burkhart on. We talked a little bit about that. I want to be fair. I want to make sure that when we report stuff, unlike the rest of the grifters out there, that we are actually honest, right? And do it with integrity. To be fair, what Andrea Burkhart, and if you guys haven't seen my last interview with her, you need to go check that out. Extremely informative. We went over the Macron's case. What she said is, when you're going to have all kinds of different insurance and or other lawyers involved, sponsor, everything else, right? And you as the defendant don't necessarily have an option on that. So they're going to ask for dismissal regardless of what Candace wants. That was speculative. We don't know if that's what was taking place, but that was one thing that I do want to offer up in defense of that a little bit, because we want to be fair on here. We want to be fair and honest. This is true. It is a long process. We got Lisa Knows in the chat. Lisa, what's up? It is a long process. It's an expensive process. Something I've been exploring. All right. Talking to lawyers and definitely looking at some options on that for a few different people. They probably need to go after George, and he's the producer of the Candoc show. They're going to be set up to where George's money, they're never going to be able to touch George's money. Even if he's hired as a producer of the show, all of that is going to be in relation to whatever LLC or whatever other legal separation they have with George's wealth. So, and that's the problem with this. And I think that's one of the things that Candace realizes is they can sue Candace for hundreds of millions of dollars. And at the end of the day, like, her quality of life isn't going to change because she's going to fall back onto the fact that George is worth a couple $100 million. And I don't know, she probably can file for bankruptcy and create a new show and nothing's going to change much. So while, I mean, it is a victory if she gets sued and loses, I don't know how much of an impact it's actually going to have on her. We'll see. Yeah, and look, this is the problem with all of us, right? Whether we're talking about the Black Pill project that's taking place, project or Operation Disillusion, as I call it, what's going on against the Trump administration, and Charlie Kirk is tied into all of this as well. This is the source of all of this, is that we want immediate gratification, whether it's people that are still on the conspiracy bandwagon and will be between now and the trial, and even after the trial. People want immediate and instant gratification, and that's not how any of these things work. It still would be fun. I agree with you. Look, I've talked to multiple lawyers, and they have said without a doubt TPUSA has an extremely strong case against Candace. I don't even think that's in question. And just make sure that Dirt Bike says, I think TPUSA may have a defamation case against Candace because they sat down with her in person with their attorney and told her the things she was saying were untrue and to not say them anymore. And then on top of that, they sent her a cease and desist letter. So she is aware of what she's saying. And she knows, she's at least been presented with explanations and the truth. She hasn't shared those, and she's not going to share those because that's one of the things that Candace does really well, or does on a regular basis, at least, is that she omits the truth time and time again, or at least omits an alternative explanation. So, and alternative facts or additional facts that would contradict whatever narrative she's pushing. I get responses to them. It keeps me informed on how they're voting in committee. I want them to know people are watching. All right, I jumped in on a conversation there. Odorized Rambling says, we all learn and grow in this life. Erika has done a great job in her life so far, in my opinion. God bless her and her family. That's exactly right. Almost none of us would hold up to the scrutiny that Erika Kirk has been subjected to. If somebody went and found, I don't know, and this is not an admission, I'm just, because I can't remember, but if they went through my text messages when I was 25, probably be able to pull out some stuff that they could use against me, and probably every person out there that I'm talking to right now. Looking back at texts and conversations that you had with people 10 years ago, it can be easily pulled out of context and turned into something that looks horrific, that's going to smear you and damage your reputation. That was a private conversation between you and somebody else. There is no there when it comes to what they're trying to say between Jillian and Erika. I think it is bonkers level ridiculous of what they're trying to turn this into. What is there, and then the leap that they make of what they're saying is there. There's such a huge gap that it doesn't make sense that anyone that's objective and honest would say, look, the most you can say is that looks inappropriate. It was probably bad judgment. And then let's move on. But there's not enough there for anyone to say that, like, this is criminal, this was grooming, all the claims it's trying to make. It is, the only way that you come to those conclusions is you're operating in bad faith. I think most of us can agree with that. Lyle Bullyard 8082 became a YouTube member. Thank you, buddy. We appreciate your support. We appreciate that. Sav Smiles says, what's Gary's email? My email, dlpodcast, ParamountTactical.com. dlpodcast, ParamountTactical.com. You want to get a hold of me? Send that. If I don't answer right away, send it again. There's a lot of stuff that goes to spam in that. So either I haven't gotten to it or it went to spam. If I don't get it right away or respond within a day or two, send it again. And this is how we should all be, because anything less just opens us up to propaganda and to being tricked. If there's not evidence, and that's the standard, that's the American standard. If you don't have evidence, then don't believe it. Don't believe it. I have all kinds of people coming to my chat and saying, this person was convicted of X, Y, and Z. And they're convicted. Well, come to find out, no, there's like a lawsuit that's taking place, but yet they're saying they were convicted of sexual assault and or PDF stuff. And it's not even true. There's a lawsuit that's happening, and a lawsuit, like any of us can file a lawsuit. You can file a lawsuit against anybody for just about any reason. The lawyer will gladly take your money knowing that you're going to lose. And even if it's proven in court that you're liable in that lawsuit, doesn't mean that is not a conviction. And that is not the same standard for a conviction in a court of law when it comes to a non-civil, a criminal trial. So the problem is we're so ignorant. That's the problem. Is like so many Americans are, quite frankly, so uneducated. They don't understand how the justice system works. They don't understand how basic concepts work, and then they're willing to believe anything that's said because it confirms a bias and or a something that they've, a prejudice or whatever it is, right? So again, it's a conclusion that they come to before having the facts. And now that they've come to this conclusion without having the facts, they look for and grasp at straws to confirm the conclusion, as opposed to just standing by, being objective, and being honest with themselves and others and saying, hey, you know what? We're going to go where the evidence leads us. And following the evidence is the only way this works. And it also, like, we don't want, and we saw how this was used against Trump too. Like everything that we saw with lawfare and the media attacking Trump and trying to say that Trump was, guilty of SA, was guilty of all these different things without any proof. And we saw it for what it was. And it was a smear campaign. It was, we had the Steele dossier accusing him of all kinds of lascivious activities overseas. The fact that he, they were trying to say that he was under the thumb of Putin and Russia. And come to find out, it was all BS, all made up, all fictional. And for those of us that are even people that were not big Trump fans, if they just sat back and said, you know what, I want proof of this. I want to see some real evidence and not just some made up files in a dossier. Like, that's how we keep from getting tricked into believing. It's how we are resistant to psychological operations. It's the only way. All right. And our founders understood this. That's why we've always said you're innocent until proven guilty. Yes, he does. He is allergic to the truth. He knows what gets clicks. I mean, I'll give him that. Continue Free says, we were smart enough to know the correlation doesn't equal causation. They look for every little correlation and immediately believe it is causation. Exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, when you're looking at so many of these emails and so many of the other documents in the Epstein files, you can look at this and realize, like, this could easily be faked. Like, I have not seen anything that I would say is, I would consider hard evidence of anything in there. And I know that's what everybody wanted. Here's what everybody wanted. Everybody thought they were going to find these videos, and it was clearly, ex-politician or this famous person, and we have them on video doing some really bad stuff, and the next day we're going to put them in handcuffs and throw away the key. That's what we thought we were going to see in the Epstein files. So far, there's nothing like that in there. If there was anything like that in there, I think it's already been removed. And half the stuff in there could very well be fake, so that when the Trump administration came in, they left it there as bait for them to take and be like, oh, now we can prosecute this guy, or we can throw any sort of suspicion on some of these political enemies that they have. I mean, at this point, there's no integrity in the Epstein files. I'm sure he did. Who cares? I have no control over the lies that people are going to put out there. If the country's reversed and Eileen Gu was a Chinese citizen, played for America, had badmouthed the Chinese government, when she returned, she would be thrown in prison at a minimum. This is true. Likely her entire family, by the way. Wouldn't just be her. Yeah, folks, please like, subscribe, all those things. As a matter of fact, the other thing that you can do is, once we shut this live stream down, go back, like the comment, throw some comments up there. That always helps us out as well. And look, folks, we really appreciate you tuning in, watching us, supporting us, and everything that you guys do out there. Couldn't do it without you guys. We're gonna continue to develop this program. And again, if trying your hand at doing some producing for the show, which is not very difficult, I'd love to have you, because we need to get some people in here to do some things in there. I got a couple of folks in the lineup that are possibly willing to do that, but yeah, we're gonna have some fun with that. We're gonna continue to develop this and probably do something on a more regular basis. Right now, I only commit to every Wednesday. We've been probably streaming on average 3 to 4 days a week, but I want to continue to bring you more news, more current events, and I can't wait for the day that we can just go without talking about Candace and the Charlie Kirk, all of this, for a week at a time. I can't wait for that. There's so many other things going on, but we got to continue to bring the fight to her and her sycophants, because what she's doing is a real damage to this country. And I think it's important to continue to expose it, continue to talk about it, to get your input on all this stuff. And that's why we're doing what we're doing. It's not fun, it's work, but I think it's important right now. So anyways, make sure you guys tune in tomorrow. Tomorrow we are going to have Patriot Misfit. We're going to be talking more about the MAGA movement, Epstein case, black pill attempts. I'm going to have plenty of legitimate statistics. We're going to compare and contrast the Biden administration versus the Trump administration, where we are compared to a year and a half ago under those. So stay tuned for that. I think people need to be aware of that. And the real successes of this administration are being overshadowed by a bunch of bitchy people whining about what they didn't get, talking about the Epstein files, which has nothing to do with Trump at the end of the day. The only reason they've been exposed and they've been put out and made public is because of Trump. But that's the drum that they're going to beat, and the only thing that they seem to care about when there's so much more going on in this country, for sure. Again, Wednesday, we're going to have Timothy Alberino on. That's going to be a fun episode. We'll be talking about UFOs, giants, the book of Enoch, the Bible. We'll have some fun with that. And again, just because we're having somebody on doesn't mean that we believe everything that they say. I'm just presenting some fun, interesting information, and you all can decide what's true. I would love to at some point, who I think has a differing opinion, Wes Huff on. We can get him on sometime to talk about the book of Enoch. He's kind of a big deal. You know, he's been on the Joe Rogan show, but we've had multiple folks on this show that have also been on the Joe Rogan. So we'll continue to have some great guests on and do a lot more in the near future. Well, folks, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you more than you know. Like, subscribe. If you want to support us, you can sign up for membership or subscriptions over on X. If you don't have an X account, make sure you get over there. A lot of stuff going on there. And until next time, stay armed, stay ready. We'll talk to you soon.